Hey guys, hello and welcome to Spud Life with me, your host, Tatty Tim. Okay, so here's a little taster of what to expect in this week's episode.
It's a good job I'll probably never be allowed to work for the police again.
Anyway.
And so when you look at Instagram, my desire to grow Instagram isn't because I want to be an influencer.
Yeah.
You know, and you saw that on a picture, but they only lifted this one.
Right.
Knowing that it's a right forefinger
Yeah.
means that you can narrow your search by, well, it's 10% then instead of every crime scene or fingerprint in there.
I think as well, we're kind of unemployable, aren't we?
Yeah.
We are.
my old boss, one of my old department managers left, and his parting words to me was, Johnny...
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Spud Life. Here we are again in the caravan of love, and I've got with me Mr. Johnny Thompson. Hi, Johnny.
Hello. Oh, no,
how's it go, buddy?
Yeah, good.
Now, for those that don't know, Johnny started the first CrossFit Cumbria gym in the whole county.
There was one in Carlisle.
Right.
It was small. It closed, so it was.
And then you were the main one.
Yeah.
So we started CrossFit in Cumbria way back when CrossFit was in its infancy in this country.
Yeah.
And then he's now kind of upgraded and gone on to bigger and better things, and we're going to find out all about Johnny's life and what he's up to now. So keep watching, keep listening. Here we go. So
all right.
I remember a long time ago now when you was a forensic scientist, would you be classed as or not? Or
was it more of like a forensic identification expert.
Yeah.
I think it was the technical term.
That was your sort of technical.
Yeah, that was my career.
Yeah.
That was the one that my mum was proud of because I got a settled job. It was working for the police.
Yeah, you got a nice normal...
good pension and all that crap.
But it wasn't for you.
No, I felt like it was a lot like school for me,
Yeah.
where I needed more stimulation, which I got a lot of at the very start.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to sound like I didn't enjoy fighting crime, but it's like anything when you get numb to it.
Yeah.
And then you lose the purpose. And because I was very good at the start, that stimulated me to be better. And churn through work and kind of prove myself. And a lot of the environment, it was very good, and it was based on figures and stuff. And actually the office environment was a good team, a team of people doing the same stuff.
Was this pretty much straight from school or what? Or
No. So I left school at 16. I went back to sixth form for one day.
Yeah.
Because I was promised that it would be better than school, and it was exactly the same. So I was like, fuck this. Because in the summer I got a job at Centre Parks, and I was like, I'm making money now. Like, I don't need to go to school.
Yeah.
Little did I know it wasn't very much money in the grand scheme of things, and you can't really support yourself on that. But I still lived with my parents. I had a good time.
16 it was.
Yeah. So I worked in the shop for a while, pretty much minimum wage. I saw all the lifeguards come in that were on £2 an hour more than me. And I was like, do you know what? I'll go and qualify as a lifeguard and I'll just hang around all day instead of grafting.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Which... after a while, it gets boring.
I can imagine.
So foot and mouth kicked off, and I got a job at the VLA, the vet labs.
Oh, yeah.
As like a lab attendant there. I was kept on after the foot and mouth. And I was like, what am I going to do with my life? So
what were you doing there? Were you just kind of doing... stuff was coming in?
Yeah, for the foot and mouth, quite a lot of it was just manual labour on... removing blood clots from test tubes and stuff, so that then they could actually test for foot and mouth. It was the preparation work and cleaning down and stuff.
Right.
And afterwards there was shifts in different areas, like dealing with in the post-mortem room, so helping the vets.
Big old cattle coming in and being cut up, and you was
chopping them up,
chopping them to pieces and finding out what killed them. Which
pretty much conditioned me to the death side.
Of the job that you were to become.
Yeah. They were allowing me to go to Newcastle on a day release course to do applied science, and the plan then was to become a teacher. Right. I just felt inside of me that something would be good about that, because I could get reward from the people that I was helping. Yeah. And little did I know that that would actually be something that I was really good at, but just not in academics.
Yeah.
Because I have to really be into something to believe it. Like a salesman.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in what you're selling, then only a few people can do it, and you wouldn't trust them.
No. But I get that all the time, and you must get them in the business.
Oh, yeah.
That cold caller that comes up, and
Absolutely.
they're so full of confidence, some of them, but you know, as
we get them emails literally every day. Messages on Instagram. I can grow your reach by following by 5,000 a month. You're like, thanks, but I'm doing 10 already.
All right.
And most of them are winging it, you know.
Of course they are. Which is fair play to them.
Yeah, they're trying. So then there was an advert in the paper for a fingerprint expert trainee.
Right.
And it transpires that the Cumbria Bureau was set up from a Lancashire headquarters.
Yeah.
Cumbria took it on because Lancashire were doing Cumbria work. And they were like, we'll have our own bureau. So they headhunted the people there that were good to set it up. Someone left. And what they found was when they put an application out UK-wide and they got a number of fingerprint experts come, they just put them through a basic comparison test of fingerprints and they didn't meet their standards.
Right.
So as much as you can be intellectual and brilliant on paper, fingerprint comparison is very much something that you can or can't do. It's a spot the difference and you need an aptitude for it.
Yeah.
So there was 300 odd applicants and I think 64 did a test. And that test was literally, they gave you a 20-minute talk with a board, show you what to look for, and then 2 hours with an eyeglass comparing and basically finding fingerprints.
Yeah.
And from that, they had the capacity to interview 6, but I think they only interviewed 4.
And you were one of those 4?
Yeah, because those 4 people could do it, and the rest were just way down. There was like a massive gap in the scores. And actually, I didn't score as well on the interview, but because my test score was good, they were like, well, take him.
Yeah.
And that was it. 5 years training in 3.5.
5 years?
Yeah, 5 years. It's mental. Because you go to court as an expert witness. So you can give opinion, which is very unique.
So did you get training in that? In the kind of legalities of...
Yeah, so the comparison work, you practice, you get more complex ones, difficult marks to basically decide whether it's them or not.
So are you chucked in at the deep end? Like, so when you first started that job, you were kind of like, this is a potential burglar. I mean, I can imagine you start off on
there's months of
smaller crimes rather than being chucked in.
Yeah, now you don't start working crimes for quite a while.
All right.
It's months of you take out a drawer of crime scene marks and fingerprint forms.
Yeah.
And these are all pre-made tests.
Right.
So you search through to find basically the matches.
Right.
You take them back to the bureau trainer.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, you got 12 out of 14. Go and look again.
Right.
There's 2 more in there.
Really?
Yeah. And it's really intense. But I loved it.
Yeah.
My focus was on because it was scores.
Yeah.
It was the stimulation came from scoring well and impressing the people that I wanted to impress.
Yeah.
And so I loved that side. And then when it got to real work, then it was even better.
I can imagine it's kind of like a real, not necessarily an adrenaline boost, but kind of...
Oh, yeah, it kind of was.
A little bit of a kick.
Yeah, because a lot of them, like, you don't think about this, but at that time, there's only you and the person that did it that absolutely know. And you're like, right, I got you.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
And then it goes through checking, so you always make sure that there's 3 checks, and then you can create a file and ship it out. They go and arrest it, and they very rarely contest it because it's a long-standing, definite. But I mean, how
long has it been in the sort of British legal system?
I think like 1901, kind of like 18. Yeah, this is stuff that I learned on my experts course in case I was asked in court. Can you tell me a history of how? Yeah, no.
So a good 100+ years.
Yeah. I think it was India. Some British guy went over and developed this because they used to measure people to see who they were.
Yeah.
But this was a way that they could identify who people
someone
were.
Discovered that we've all got this unique.
Yeah. So rather than crime scenes, it didn't start as crime scenes. It was that is the person.
Yeah.
So rather than
it was more of an identification process.
Yeah. So rather than pictures and stuff like that, you'd put your fingerprints on, and then you come back and you'd be like, yes, that's the person that say they are.
Yeah.
And between twins have different fingerprints even.
Do they?
Yeah.
Well? So every single human being on the planet
Has different.
Completely different.
And footprints.
No way.
Yeah. So that as an undisputed identification form, obviously when you go to court, some people will say it wasn't me.
Yeah.
So then as an expert, you have to explain why.
Yeah.
And so this is where I kind of fell out of love with that, because there wasn't much flexibility.
Right.
So for me, it was either there was 16 points in agreement in both and none in disagreement, therefore it's definitely them. And that 16-point standard was created like decades ago, but not on true science.
Right.
But it just stood because no one contested it.
Yeah.
Which for me, there was sometimes marks of sequences and things where you would know that there was some in agreement, none in disagreement. Yeah. So if there's one there that you can't explain, then that is almost definitely not them.
Yeah.
But if it was below a standard, you couldn't mention it at all. Yeah. So if you went to court and said, I saw a guy, he was pretty tall, he had a black jacket on and pink shoes.
Yeah.
Now, well, we arrested this guy with pink shoes on. That helps support a case. Right. Whereas for this, it was either yes or no.
Simple as that, cut and dry.
Yeah, and there was no flexibility within the broader fingerprint world to be able to look deeper at that and say, well, actually, as an expert, this is my opinion. But I wasn't allowed to write a statement to say, as an expert, my opinion is highly likely. Because as soon as you put that, the defense solicitor will there, quantify highly likely, you know?
Yeah.
But then that could contribute with all of the other evidence and it might tip the balance.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Because they're not just solely relying on your...
Yeah, in that case,
but it could be one of a number of factors.
And to be honest, it complicates things. It's more work and you have to kind of, do the sales pitch in court.
I bet.
You know?
I bet.
So without that flexibility and without any more learning, I kind of fell out of love with it.
Got a bit stale.
Yeah.
But even though, did you ever go to any crime scenes or anything?
Yeah. So any serious crime scene.
So were you one of the people that goes with
No,
the
there'd be CSIs. They'd send them into the bureau. So most days we were stuck in the bureau looking at crime scenes versus fingerprint forms or searching on a system that wasn't entirely...
Crime scene photos, the whole caboose or not?
No, just the fingerprints.
Just the fingerprints. Really.
Yeah, or the photo of where it came from, so you might be able to see like what finger it might be. Because if I was going to search on a system and I had a little bit of a fingerprint, and you saw a sequence like smudges here, and you saw that on a picture, but they only lifted this one, knowing that it's a right forefinger means that you can narrow your search by, well, it's 10% then instead of every crime scene or fingerprint in there. It becomes more accurate.
Right.
But not like you see on CSI Miami where they put the fingerprints in and within a second, like mug shots and everything. Not at all. No.
So do they have these things, when you're talking about that CSI, it just made me think, and they put things in like these boxes and the smoke appears and the fingerprint appears on a glass and all that. Do they have stuff like that?
Super glue treatment. So they evaporate super glue and it adheres to the moisture in the fingerprint.
And then it appears.
So anything like non-porous, if it could fit in the super glue cabinet. So the lab downstairs took loads of stuff in the collect from a crime scene to get fingerprints from. And that was one of the more common approaches to try and get them.
So it is a
absolutely.
I wonder if it's just a gimmicky thing to get.
No. And then the porous stuff like paper and stuff, often get it off paper because it would go through a chemical treatment that would adhere. So it would basically put a dye that would fluoresce, and sometimes not. And that would be the amino acids in your sweat. So it wouldn't even have to be moist. It would just be what was left in your amino acids.
Bloody hell.
Which is mega, isn't it?
Isn't it? So that combined with, so you had nothing to do with DNA samplings or anything like that, did you? That was completely different field.
No, CSIs would swab for DNA and send it away.
So even if, getting back to what you were just saying then, that even if there was like DNA evidence, sort of good witness evidence, but you were the factor that was wasn't quite enough points on that fingerprint to make it a dead cert that
Yeah.
would they just dismiss your evidence fully, or would they
It would go
dismiss
down as insufficient for identification purposes.
Right. So not necessarily they'd get away with it.
No.
It's just one of the factors.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bang to rights job.
Exactly.
Simple as that.
And some marks will go down and say, well, we've checked this one and it wasn't theirs.
Yeah.
But whether that had much balance, because there's fingerprints everywhere and they can last for a very long time.
Yeah.
So there just wasn't much exploration as to how you could create a better case for CID, let's say, you know, to create a case file.
Right.
It was either yes or no.
Yeah.
Which meant it was more efficient.
Yeah.
And obviously with the constraints of, you know, taxpayers' money,
Yes.
you had to get through a bit of work.
Yeah. So what was the workload like? Was it pretty intense? Was it pretty...
It was at the start. And this is another reason why I fell out of love with it, is because the majority of our job all day was checking and finding fingerprints.
Yeah.
And more it became paperwork and all the things to support and audits, fucking audits.
Was it?
Yeah, because you had to be ISO accredited and auditors would come in, and because it had to be absolutely watertight, that your processes were following correctly, so there was no mistakes. But that just meant that in the end there was more of that work than your actual work. Yeah. And this is the way of the world now, isn't it?
Yeah. You were just keeping up with legislation.
Yeah.
Whereas the actual work that was the nuts and bolts, bread and butter, was kind of secondary almost.
Yeah, and then they're putting things, so a CSI wouldn't come out unless there was a crime over $2,000, or there was visible blood or stains or anything there.
Yeah.
So they just wouldn't go. And for a long time, lots of people were sat doing nothing. CSIs in offices, like, I want to go out and do shit.
And
they weren't allowed to. Like, there's an old guy, Don Ray. I don't know Don Ray's Penrith guy. He was a copper, became a CSI, and he would go out and basically look for crime off logs and stuff, and he'd go out, send us stuff, and he'd get a bollocking. Like, we found this guy that committed this crime, and like, but it didn't meet the threshold of value. So if you ever get burgled, say that...
Just say it was more than $2,000.
Say like 10 grand or something. Yeah. Just get someone there.
That's crazy.
Mad.
So you just kind of lost your mojo with it?
Yeah, and to be honest, there was a bit of a balance shift. So I've always been into fitness, training. Well, I wouldn't say sport as such, like football, traditional sports, but challenging myself physically. And then I was training pretty hard at the time, and CrossFit kept coming up when I was searching for conditioning workouts, because I'd strength trained for so long to try and get bigger. But then I was riding my bike and I wanted to get fitter as well. And they didn't really go hand in hand. I did Sharky's gym one time when it was above the warehouse. Did this.
The boxing?
Yeah, a little bit of the boxing stuff. I think it was like a charity event.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is better fitness than strength alone.
Yeah, because it was like a bit of bag work. Then some kind of like, what's that one called where you, circuit sort of
like
training,
circuit training,
it was kind of, then a bit of sort of back, and then more circuits, and it was just and it was constant sort of going round, wasn't it?
Exactly, but you're moving your whole body, and it looked more relevant to what I wanted from my fitness,
rather than just pumping iron, wasn't it?
And then MMA was getting big. Remember Brock Lesnar? Massive guy, and I watched a YouTube video of him flipping tires and then on the air bike and like battling ropes. And I was like, I can get into that. So I started doing it down at the police gym in the hall, and I was just messing about with stuff on my own.
What did they have that stuff down there or not?
Or so they used to have a couple of squash courts, and they turned them into an actual gym. And then they had the sports hall, which was very rarely used except for like bleep tests and that kind of stuff. So I'd take equipment in there and be training on my own, but just kind of moving around, because like circuit classes and stuff like that were all just a bit, I was searching for something more extreme that I could be in control of, and while searching for conditioning inspiration, I kept seeing CrossFit workouts come up, but they were like older women doing kettlebell swings and running and stuff, and it's like, nah. And but then I found that, actually there's a link here to the main website, and it was 3 days training, 1 day off.
Yeah.
And they kept that cycle and always post the workout of the day. And people in the comments would comment their time or weight or whatever the test was.
Yeah.
And I did one, and my first CrossFit workout was a benchmark workout called Helen, which was 3 rounds of 400-meter run, 12 pull-ups, 21 kettlebell swings. And I saw the time, I was like, I totally blast that. And 2 rounds in, I was dead. So no, I could run, I could pull up, I could kettlebell swing,
not all one after
but
the other.
all together. Yeah. And then I looked on, and these middle-aged women were beating me. I was like, fuck, there's something wrong here. Tell you what, I'm gonna train for a while. I'm gonna be the best at CrossFit, and then I'm gonna go and do my own thing again. Yeah. And that was my journey for 15 years. Because everyone else then started. Yeah. And you look at what people were doing then, and I'd be more than capable of being the best CrossFitter in the world right now if I could time warp back. Yeah. Because the training then was different. Yeah. And the appeal. So the participation now as a professional sport is massive. It is, isn't it? Because of the sponsorship and prize money and whatnot. Yeah. So people take it seriously. Yeah. Out of school, they come in, they want to be CrossFit athletes. Wow. So as any sport, which is cool. Yeah, yeah. But so anyway, I ran classes down there, and
just off your own back, or were you related to CrossFit?
No, not at that point. I was like, I'm doing CrossFit. Yeah. I'm going to do these regular times because people were coming in anyway and be like, what are you doing? Let's do, And then I maxed out my overdraft buying equipment so that I could do more CrossFit. And then my wife was like, why don't you run a class and charge them? Yeah. I was like, well, £3 a time, and then I can buy more equipment. And then that kind of cycled. And then because it was a sprung floor and we had Olympic weightlifting bars, we put some holes in the floor and got told off. And then there was people coming from town that technically shouldn't have been there. Yeah. And then its popularity was its end down there. And a unit came available on Scarsgill. The gym's still there now. And I thought this is a perfect space for 20 people just to rip CrossFit and have a good time. Yeah. And I had no intention then of making it into a business other than a self-supporting facilitator of my training.
You were still doing
full-time fingerprint. Yeah.
And this was just like a hobby stroke.
Yeah. So I do evening classes, one on a Saturday morning. Yeah. I had another coach there that did a Thursday night, so I had a night off. But that whole time, as I was trying to become a better CrossFit athlete, all of my research then went into better ways to train, technique on Olympic lifts. So the Olympic lifts were my weakest point.
So did you just teach those yourself?
Yeah.
Just from your YouTube videos and books and things.
Yeah, the joys of YouTube. Yeah. But videoing myself, watching back, comparing against actual Olympic weightlifters, not CrossFit weightlifters. Because a lot of them are still not that great. Yeah. But seeing slow motion videos and being immersed in it, I could visualize myself doing it. I used to fall asleep at night visualizing snatching and then wake up and I'd go and I'd be better at it. Yeah. Because repetition of good movement in your head is almost as good as doing it anyway.
I mean, it's been scientifically proven.
It has,
that
absolutely.
Is a thing, whether people believe it or not. Visualization is and any top athlete, anyone who's top of the game in anything will tell you that visualizing
it's a way of meditation as well, and it's funny, it's kind of greasing the groove without the
thing.
Which lots of that, I used to program for myself for bodybuilding and strength training, so I'd write my own programs based off what I'd already understood from ones from Flex magazine and stuff. And then I took joy in the programming as well, testing myself, working out percentages, that kind of stuff. But learning things like that as I went, when we're learning technical skills, that all created a foundation that I didn't realize would turn out to be really good for what I'm doing now. Which there was transitions then. I think I did that for about 7 years while I was having a full-time job.
Wow, was it that long?
Yeah, and then my wife got pregnant. Yeah. And it kind of dawned on me then, I'd spent all of that time learning how to train better and coach better. Yeah. And then I was like, shit, I've got this hobby and a full-time job, and I'm going to have a kid, which I'm not going to have much time with. But more importantly, that time when they're older, I'm going to have to explain to them that I'm out doing a hobby, and that's why I'm not spending time with you. And at the same time as that, like, well, that's no inspiration when I want to teach my kid to do whatever they want and not worry about money until you achieve what you want elsewhere, and then money comes separately. And I was like, I'm contradicting my values here. So I read my first marketing book that someone gave to me, and it was in the cupboard for ages. Wife was pregnant, got it out, read it in a couple of days. Being dyslexic, that was a hard task. But I was mega into it, and I was like, this makes perfect sense. Like marketing, and then 100 books later, audio books, and like
totally
self-improvement.
Mega.
So then I was like, actually, I'm going to turn this into a business. And over time, I had the luxury of being able to do that whilst having support of my full-time job. So I could make that transition versus saving money to make a leap where you're going to be.
Where you've got no safety net.
Yeah, and lots of the advice from the entrepreneurs out there was commit to it. Like, leave your job and do that. Like, if you tell people to do that, the majority are going to fuck themselves because they're going in without being able to swim into an ocean. Do you know what I mean?
Because I wonder, would you have got to the stage you're at now if you had just quit the day job and just gone for it?
No, because the biggest value I learned from growing a business through passion is whatever marketing or business strategy that you have, passion has to come first.
It does.
What you do well, people come to.
Of course,
If you do it for money or out of desperation of money, you might have passion for it, but if you're desperate for the money,
and that
it
vibe,
changes.
That vibe comes across, doesn't it?
Entirely.
And that word passion. That is the thing. You've got to have a passion for what you want to do.
To be honest, I've seen people open gyms in Penrith that have a passion for training, but they don't have a passion for coaching people.
No.
They have a passion for training and the money to be able to train. But the middle person misses out because they get shit service, overcharged. They're not getting the value, you know? So then passion in mountain biking, that came to fruition when we got some mountain bikers a mountain biker and some motocross lads, hard enduro. And after a year of training them, I'd followed online programs for CrossFit. I was like, there's nothing really bike specific fitness. So there's only a couple of coaches globally that were known for training mountain bikers in their fitness. Some of them were in, like, you know, you get a Tour de France cycle coach. But a lot of the downhill tracks, you pedal out the gate, and that's the only pedaling you're doing. And I saw and felt the movement on the bike much more like the MMA style, where you're actually more of an MMA fighter than a cyclist.
Well, you are.
Because you're not pedal power.
Because I'd imagine the legs of a mountain, say a downhill mountain biker. I know absolutely nothing about this, but I'd imagine the legs of a downhill mountain biker will be nothing compared to a Tour de France cyclist.
No, for power and sustained power. Tour de France athlete is a machine that is fueled by the muscles they've created to withhold a wattage over time, and then calculating fuel to be able to maintain that. So they are based off scientists saying, you can do this because we've tested you and this is your threshold, go out and do it. And you just have to battle with your mind to know what your body can perform.
Whereas a downhill cyclist, you've got your grip, much
going on.
You've got the stability,
and ultimately it's a skills-based sport
as well.
So you can still ride well not being fit. You can't ride a road bike and keep up if you're not super fit. And I think that's why it took a while for the industry to change, so that then it was more commonplace for people to train, because people were still winning World Cups not training. Because you can have the mindset for it, you know, and the skills and growing up on a bike or whatever. But then, like CrossFit, people now come in as children, committed as an athlete in a more modern approach, and they're doing everything they can to be the best. And so the shift in mountain biking kind of came at a time, I like to think that we influenced it, because we were the first program to send out accessible training to everyday mountain bikers. So the plan wasn't to train professionals.
Yeah, this
that
was
I'm
just
going to allow everyone
want
else to train
train.
like a professional
yeah.
based on the program that I give them
I say
from my learnings of professionals.
So the ethos wasn't right. I'm going to have the best. I've done CrossFit. I'm now going to have the best, like professional cyclists, downhill
No,
mountain bikers.
not at all.
I just
It
want
was.
to give everybody the same amount of.
I've seen how much of a difference my training has made to
Yeah.
these guys that just happen to come into my gym.
Yeah.
What a shame if I can't give that to everyone.
Everybody. Yeah.
And that was the same as CrossFit. Like, I've learned all of this brilliant stuff that makes me feel amazing.
Yeah.
I need to share that with people and
Yeah.
show that they can kind of take a performance approach versus an aesthetic.
Yes.
You know, when
yeah.
you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror, and I spent a decade trying to look good
Yeah.
through strength training and
Yeah,
bodybuilding.
Yeah.
2 years after CrossFit, I didn't look in the mirror expecting to see brilliant things,
No.
but I looked better then than I ever did doing any other kind of training.
Exactly.
So I was like, well, if I can then extend that to mountain bikers that are struggling and they don't have direction,
Yeah.
they can follow this. And the feedback was amazing. I've been on your program for 6 weeks and it's absolutely revolutionized my riding.
Wow.
Leaving my mates for dead and handling, I crashed the other day and hurt myself. I'm like, this is exactly the feedback I need.
Yeah. So that
And you
gave
just
you the impetus to just carry on and
carry on. And I used what I learned from CrossFit marketing.
Yeah.
And there was a bit of a transition time there where I picked up a video camera. So I did tons of research on video before I committed to, at the time, what was an expensive second-hand, like full-on video camera.
Yeah. One of them old proper classic.
Nah, well, I bought it. I didn't even realise you had to buy a separate lens. And then it didn't have autofocus, so I had to learn to focus properly.
Really?
And then I had to learn about depth of field and shutter speeds, because I'd filmed something, I'd be like, it's great, put it on my computer,
And it
was unusable.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn all of that, and that got me into that cycle that also, so I got like 3 amazing things from that. Mountain biking, mega passionate about it.
Yeah.
Training people, so mega passionate about helping other people.
Yeah.
And then I found this new thing, marketing got an extension to it. It was being able to be creative.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so being able to create videos around the things that I was seeing, and hopefully, I'd spend a full day on a 15-second story on Instagram, editing it, and it was a byproduct that it ended up on social media. But what my passion was if I could do it, if I could visualize a shot, get the music right, and everything looking brilliant. And I'd be super proud. Yeah, and then I post it, I get maybe 200 views, and then it would be gone forever.
Yeah.
But I didn't care.
No.
Because people would then say, oh, I saw that. That was mint.
Yeah. So were you still, at this point, had you left the police?
No, it's still in
still
the police.
police.
Yeah. So all that was happening at the same
So
time.
your life, and had your first child been born yet?
Yeah.
So man, you must have had there were definitely not enough hours in the day.
No. But I was working more efficiently because I had a kid. And then I took a Thursday off. So I went to my boss and said, look, I'm going to take a Thursday off to look after Phoenix.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, great. And then went to his boss and came back and said, no, you can't. We're too busy. I'm like, you can't be too busy because I spent 72 hours on the internet last month that I have to pay back. If I'm too busy, I can promise you I can do my work in 2 days.
Yeah.
I want 1 out of 5 days off.
Yeah.
And tell you what, go back and say, if this was a woman, would you be saying this?
Yeah.
This is only because I have another business, which I'm not going to be doing on that day that I'm looking after my child. And you go and think about whether that would be different if I was a woman that just had a baby.
Yeah.
Came back, Thursdays off. So I used that same card later on where I said I'm going to do 18 and a half hours instead of 37, but I'm going to do them in the middle of the day because I was coming in late, I was leaving early, and I was the flexi time was good, but in the boundaries of it, I was still pushed.
Right.
So I ended up back at work for 5 days, but only working 18 and a half hours.
Yeah.
They said, we're not busy until 10,
Yeah.
and we're not busy after 4.
Yeah.
So if I can be there at the busiest times, that's better for everyone.
Of course, it's more effective.
I ended up doing that. I think I took a month off to set up the website. So I learned how to set up a website on WordPress.
Yeah.
Did all of that myself for the first online program. It's like, what happens if I get like 200 people sign up to this? And released it, and there was 3. But I was like, right, it's something.
People. Yeah.
And then continued. I put more programs on for different types of mountain biking.
I think that's it. To interrupt you, but I think a lot of people watching and listening this, that cause we're both in business, we've both been in business for a long time, and it's people just automatically think that you start a business and it's way, and I think it was a very similar process for me when I first started. I think first day in town, I probably sold 3 potatoes. But you've got to be consistent. And, consistency is the key. You've got
driven by passion.
Yeah, you've got to be passionate about your product, passionate about your service, whatever it happens to be, but also consistent.
And I've had so many people behind me that see what I do, and they say, I can make money off that. Yeah. That looks like a good life. I could get into that and I'll make money.
Yeah.
And a guy opened a gym, said, I'll open a gym and I'll take half of Johnny's members. Yeah. Like, great. You can take the 5 people that did leave that just needed somewhere else to go, but they had no other options, so that they were there and upset. They can go. Brilliant.
That's it. You see, I had similar sort of things. So people had seen me being successful on the markets and that. Next thing you know, they've bought a potato machine. They're setting up 2 stalls down from you. 6 months later, it's back on for sale on eBay. It's because.
And why are some barbers quiet versus? I go and see Matthew in town, and they're always busy because they're passionate about it. They have the rapport, and they don't just open a business to make money. And that's it.
It's the passion, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's definitely the passion.
And since then, I've had so many opportunities where I could go away and make more money. But not having passion and a vision of where that would take me. And so when I went full-time Fit for Racing, so I did then leave work eventually.
Because I do remember you coming up and not necessarily asking my advice, but we were just chatting away, and I sort of vividly remember saying to you, go for it.
Yeah, because you did.
It was the same
You were
thing.
one of few.
But it's kind of like, whether it's my own thoughts or the way of thinking, because when I started this business, my business, it was kind of like, what if I don't do it, and then what if in 10 years time I come on holiday to the Lake District and I see somebody selling baked potatoes on the street and they've got this awesome business, and that could have been me 10 years ago. And so it's like
fear of missing out, isn't it?
Like
and that was why I opened the gym. I was like, if I don't do it, someone else will.
Exactly.
And they won't do it as well as I am.
Exactly. We know our strengths, and we know the passion we put into something to make it, because we'll both give 110%. If we really believe in something and want something to happen, it's going to happen, isn't it?
Exactly.
Simple as.
And often that's happened where I'm fixated on something. And just before the whole Fit for Racing stuff, I was running Olympic weightlifting training camps and seminars around Cumbria, and they were going really well, and they were good, profitable things. And I did an online program for weightlifting, and I actually had more on the Fit for Racing than I did with the more on the weightlifting. But I was like, where are they going to go? You know, there's gold medalists that are programming better than me. But there's no one out there as good as me right now at this. And if I continue, I'll always be the best. And so I dropped that, went with that, and it's just exploded. I mean, I say exploded. It's just like,
it wasn't an overnight.
No, if you look at a graph over years, and it was double, like 50%, and then, you know, like every year increasing in numbers, which is reassuring. But the only time, like the smallest increase was last off season, so 23, 24.
Right.
And this is because I went against my principles slightly, in a way. I was offered a job as a performance manager for a factory team, which is basically all the money in the world to create the fastest riders in the world. And when I had the first meeting, I was like, I said, I don't want a job. You don't want to employ me. But what I want to do is I want to help because I can see how the industry is behind on performance.
Yeah.
And I want this opportunity to use your team as the Team Sky.
Yeah.
You know, where we're looking at the things that others aren't to get better riders and define the upper level. And all that was brilliant, and I asked for an absurd amount of money, which they paid me, and I said, I'm not going to give you any more than half of my time.
Right.
And I'm only doing this because that money is going straight back into my business to create an app.
Yeah.
And all of that I thought would help my business on a broader scale, visibility more in the industry with the pro riders, trust from people, seeing the people out, you know, because the factory team has employed me as a performance manager. That's obviously trust.
Yeah.
But then there was a bit of a mismatch between what I expected and what they wanted.
Right.
And what I expected was we'd be on this journey together.
Yeah.
What they wanted was just a tick in the box. January the 1st, this year we have a performance manager.
Oh.
And I tried really fucking hard to make changes where they were super easy, would have saved money, and all of the riders would have been happy, but it just fell on deaf ears. And I ended up in that fixated state where they were asking me for performance metrics on riders. I'm like, well, I'm not going to give you them if you don't get accommodation like where the race is.
Yeah.
If they're going to have to travel 40 minutes, everyone else is staying there, why stay over there?
Yeah.
Sort that shit out, because that's easy performance gains.
Yeah.
I'm the performance manager who I thought was going to sit next to the manager who would do logistics, and I would be able to influence that, which didn't happen, and in the end, ultimately, kind of fell out with them.
Simple as that.
Yeah, because it got to a point where I was like, if I'm not making change, and like it's basically not.
That must have been so frustrating as well.
Yeah,
it's like they must have sort of virtually promised you all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And then when it came to it, you got.
And it wasn't about the money. And they probably looked at my paycheck and was like, well, it's not worth that.
Yeah.
I would have been if I was allowed to influence. Yeah. And that's it. Like, you don't hire a consultant for a lot of money and don't take their advice.
Exactly.
You know, like, oh, a consultant on my my line of making doors or something.
Yeah.
Come in, tell us how we can refine it.
Yeah.
But while you're here, I just want you to make doors.
You're
like,
or
no.
We'll just ignore what you're saying. We'll just do our own thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like mental.
So because I committed so much time to that, my business didn't grow.
I bet, yeah.
And on reflection, whatever money they paid me then wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
Because it was outside of my principle then that I would only do things that would help my business.
Yeah.
And
so I suppose in a lot of ways it was a good learning curve.
Oh, I learned so much last year about the industry.
Yeah.
I work with a different bike brand now who are so different.
Yeah.
And they're really like, I don't know, it's more about their community and the way that people feel.
So they're passionate as well, are they still?
They're passionate about the bikes and how we represent the bikes versus passionate about marketing and what we can tell people that we don't actually do. We don't actually do.
We pretend that we do.
Yeah, they were the shit car salesmen that don't believe but will send you out in a car that breaks down the road. These guys I work with now, I can see the passion. The owner is the CEO and he's all around the world doing everything he can to raise up the brand, and he's
a
doing
proper
brilliant.
Boots on the ground guy, and he's really going.
Exactly.
He's not just one of these ones that sits in our office and data cruncher.
The old CEO, he was a visionary guy, but he'd gone too far, where like his visions were lost on the people he had executing them. We'd have a vision, say, yes, Johnny. I had a meeting with him. It was fantastic. It was mind opening. I learned a lot about business from him, and then that was the last I heard from him.
All right.
And he left it in charge of someone that was incapable, who just wanted to make his job easy. Right. And that's how things work. You know, you have a vision, and then the people that are left are the ones that realize it. And before long, we've let Johnny go. He wasn't performing as we expected.
But I don't think you can. If we have visions for our lives and our businesses, and I think it's only us that can make those visions become a thing.
Yeah.
You can help. You can have people.
When you're out of it, though, this is what happened with CrossFit Cumbria, was because I was immersed in Fit for Racing a lot, and because I left work then, I had the gym in Penrith, I had one in Kendal.
Yeah, because you just opened one in Kendal.
Yeah, and then I had Fit for Racing, which was paying more than the other ones, and so then naturally I was spending more time on that.
Yeah.
But what people saw was that I wasn't spending time with them. And so whilst I backfilled my coaching and stuff, that was left to other people that maybe didn't have the same motivations and passions I had.
Yeah.
So then the culture changed.
Yeah.
So when I came into the gym then, there's lots of bitterness and like, where have you been, Johnny?
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, well, this isn't the environment that I set out to create.
Yeah.
I'm now left with something that's changed and developed because I haven't been involved to kind of influence the culture.
Yeah.
And so I kind of, I fell a little out of love with CrossFit then, because I felt guilty as well that I wasn't coaching the people that I loved and helping that environment.
Yeah.
And although it was making money, I was like, I felt hollow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was really deserving of the income, you know?
Yeah.
But the performance manager job came up, or they approached me. I spoke to my wife, and I promised that I'd sell the Kendal gym, or the 50% that I owned, to make up for that time that I'd be traveling Europe and whatever else. As like a bit of a, I can't do everything, so I'll let that go. And that was like one of the first times I've let something go that still had potential, but there was just more potential elsewhere.
So was that an actual Cumbria CrossFit gym?
That was a House Fitness Kendal. Right. So it was a CrossFit gym opened with a partner, Pat Moore, Moore Bakery. You know Moore Bakery, they do lots of like artisan stuff.
Yeah, I think Dean, actually, there's a guy in town, Dean, I think he's their manager.
Oh, right, yeah.
I'm pretty sure he is.
Yeah, so Pat used to come up from Kendal to our gym.
Right.
And then he approached me with a business idea that we'd sell basically fitness food. And we spent a few days together, walking the fells, chatting about business. Yeah. And then in the end, that's when my principles kicked in. I was like, but I don't know that much about food production and the business of marketing and distributing food. It's too far out of my expertise. And although it's a good opportunity, maybe not. So then we decided to open a gym instead. Which went mega. It was great.
Yeah.
We had a little bit of a difference in the type of people we wanted and the environment we wanted. Because of my experience, I thought there's a real gap in the market for maybe the less confident people that are interested in CrossFit. Back to the original CrossFit, it's for everyone. Yeah. And it's not a sport.
Yeah.
The sport is different.
It is intimidating for people when you walk into any gym. But I've been into a CrossFit. I've been into your gym a couple of times, and when people are like swinging kettlebells and
like dropping the weights
and dropping weights, and they're sweating like crazy, and it's kind of like if you're completely newbie to, you might be a little bit overweight and you're kind of not very.
We used to have intake courses of 20 people, and there'd be a couple of people that were ready for it.
Yeah.
And 18 were like
rabbits caught in it.
Exactly. And then
what the fuck I walked into?
But they were the best.
Yeah.
Because they listened to everything you said.
Yeah.
And every little.
They didn't have any preconceptions, didn't they?
Yeah. And any small interaction you had with them had massive weight.
Yeah.
And so you're like, these are moldable people that I can make them believe in themselves through the passion that I have for this.
Yeah.
And I can change their lives in a positive way. And when I was fully involved in the intake courses, they were running super well.
Yeah.
And the marketing obviously helped to get more people in.
Yeah.
And
then in a way, though, it becomes self-fulfilling because those people that you've helped mould then tell other people. And other people that they tell will have known them pre-CrossFit, seen probably the confidence they've gained from it and thought, Jesus,
but then
really can do it,
a few months down the line they turn into a CrossFit wanker and then they want to be doing the open and I want that barbell and I want to do that pull-up bar, and you're like, right, this has gone right. I appreciate your passion for competing, and it's important to you to have a goal, but you're doing things now that are going to hurt you. And it took me a long time to realize that CrossFit hurts people when you skip too far.
Yeah.
You know, like a white belt, you stand in a line and you do the to learn a technique and grease the groove.
Yeah.
And when we're adding weights to complex movements, when people don't even have the mobility to do it, and then we say, do that again, but we're going to time you and do it as fast as you can, then you're like, shit, everything here is just going to hurt people. And eventually people were hurting themselves because the culture was
It did have a little bit of a bad press.
It did.
At one point, didn't it? And do you think that was when that kind of whole... It went from sort of amateurs just not necessarily having fun, but, you know...
Yeah, it got more serious.
Into that sportsman type mode where people were like really competitive.
Because you do a 15-minute workout, be blowing out your ass.
Yeah.
And then the weights got heavier as you went along. So you'd be qualifying to do more weights because you were fitter. And in the end, people were attempting weights that were close to their max, but they'd done a 15-minute work. The heart rate's 180.
Yeah.
And then you're like, how is this not going to hurt people?
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily straight away, but then... And I was all like, CrossFit doesn't hurt you when you do it right.
Yeah.
And then you look around, 90% of your gym are doing it wrong. And you go around, you're like, stop, do this, slow down, lighten up. You turn around, more weights on, ripping it. You're like... And
so
you kind of
a mega insurance.
No, because like in a way, I justified it because it was almost like I'd coached them. They were not receptive to it, and they make a personal choice, and so then they know the risk.
I suppose,
Which is where I was when I started CrossFit.
Yeah.
I knew the risks of bad form, and I was just going at it.
Yeah.
But what they didn't realize is if you get good form and good technique, you get better. And you're limited when you just keep ripping.
Yeah, of course you are.
And you see people done CrossFit for 10 years and they're still exactly the same.
Really?
Yeah. Because they just go in and
it's all about...
They think that it's an exercise class 2 or 3 times a week and you burn some calories. So, you know, you rip in weights and you run in and this and that, and it's good. They probably would look worse if they didn't do it.
Yeah.
But there's the difference, is like the progression.
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up not being a CrossFit athlete anymore.
Yeah.
Because the amount that you had to do to make a small progression was so much. You'd spend 6 months on back squat programs 3 times a week, mega weights, sore knees, sore back, and you put 5 or 10 kilos on your back squat. I'm like, shit, I'm still 40, 50 kilos off, like the minimum standard for like regionals.
Oh, right.
And then you're like, because everyone else progressed so quick.
Yeah.
And I guess genetic limitations, or let's call it prescribed enhancements for other people.
Because was there or is there a big drug kind of culture in CrossFit? Is there really?
Well, it's only at the highest levels they test.
Is it?
And even then, it's like with a pinch of salt.
Is it?
Because they don't want to test everyone and bust everyone and say, well, actually, none of those 20 CrossFit athletes are even here anymore because we've banned them.
Yeah.
Because that's such a shame for their brand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was all self-governing. So they didn't have like USADA come in and piss test people.
Right. Yeah.
They'd get their own and select people.
Yeah.
This guy who came 3rd in the CrossFit Games was 200 last year and is not American. Test him.
Yeah.
He's banned.
Yeah.
We test. You know what I mean? So anyway, so that progression tapered off for me, and it took a lot of work, and being immersed in the business and stuff, I kind of lost my passion for training as well. So I was just maintaining because it was my job and I had to be decent, but I had no real motivation then. And COVID as well, I started getting on the bike more. I was like, shit, I'm actually back on the bottom of the curve.
Yeah.
Where, like fingerprints, loved it when I was learning.
Yeah.
And then just get a little bit stale.
Yeah. And
so then riding bikes now, I'm still high on that learning curve of skills, and my fitness helps that.
Yeah.
But my skills are way behind. So I'm more time on the bike to get better. And this is stimulating me now as an athlete myself to kind of skip over and be like, weight training, fitness, you'll reach your genetic potential. Why don't you go and enjoy something else and learn something else that a lot of people won't, because then they're uncomfortable going back to the bottom of a pile where you have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
But that stimulates me, and I went for a ride yesterday actually with a young lad, And we were talking about all of this, and I was like, this is why I'm doing this today with you, to get better.
Yeah.
And he was like, you can definitely do this jump. You just have to have confidence and not break. And I was like, this young lad's like, I can't let him down. He's got confidence in me where I don't. Yeah. Overcoming that mental barrier, doing it and being perfectly fine, felt like way back when did my first snatch at 60 kilos. And I was like, yes, I'm making progress.
It's awesome, isn't it?
So it's those leaps that are happening quicker on the bike. That's absolutely amazing.
So you're sort of putting into practice what you're teaching as well.
Yeah. So I'm still in the gym and I'm still training, but in a different way.
You actually, because I know if anyone's watching, so Johnny's got a fantastic Instagram called Fit for Racing.
Yeah.
I'm going to put a link in it for this, but you'll see a lot of his reels, and it's you usually in front of the camera, doing a shitload of exercises. Sometimes weight, sometimes body weight, sometimes bands, sometimes it's all, you name it. You use everything, don't you? There's nothing.
And I'd say now I'm more of a sports strength and conditioning coach versus a CrossFit. Because the sport of fitness in CrossFit is great. If you were really good, you'd be good at most of the other things. Yeah. But when you look at sport, there's a lot more goes on with rotation that isn't tested and quantifiable in a CrossFit competition. So then they don't include it. So actually, you don't become a holistic athlete. CrossFitters are specialists now.
Yeah.
And I started CrossFit to be a holistic athlete.
Yeah.
So now, when I'm training, it's more like an athlete. What am I going to do to increase my explosiveness, my rotational strength, my mobility? That's all going to help me on the bike. At the same time, strength, fitness, in a conditioning style.
Yeah, and it's not just for. I mean, it just so happens that you're aiming yours for, but anyone who can, even if they don't do mountain biking,
people follow it.
It's a great set of exercises because everything is completely different.
Yeah,
you always seem to make things fun for a start off.
Yeah,
so it's not like you feel as if you're going to the gym. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. It's just like try this. It's try that, and it's kind of like your whole.
Most of my personal training sessions have always been, I'll warm up. Probably not well enough most of the time. Then I'll try something new, or practice a skill that I'm not good at. Then do strength training, then do conditioning.
Yeah.
So I get the value out of it, but there's a small portion in there that I always needed that was testing a different level. And I even do that now. And a lot of the videos I put out, I'll be faffing about in the gym and I'll be like, right, how can I hit this muscle in the hip in a way that reflects a corner on a bike, and then I'll add a band to add some load in a direction that isn't just a barbell or a dumbbell. Like, this hits really well, actually. I'm going to include this in my programs as something that's different, relevant, improves, and actually it's really punchy on Instagram. And like most of the stuff you see on Instagram, that's the sprinkle on top that makes it mountain bike specific. The program itself is based off the 2 decades of training and the, I guess, science that goes behind improvement on a physical level, and then making it relevant. That's only a small portion on top. And a lot of people in the industry will be like, you don't need all that shit, just bench, deadlift, squat, do this, that, and that. I'm like, do all those things. We do those things. But it's boring as fuck if I show you that every day on Instagram.
But not just that, it's not like you're just doing things to get likes on Instagram. You're doing things, it's to create that buzz about your training. I'd imagine you look at you never know what's coming next on any of your reels. So it's kind of like, and then when they do come, it's always something that it's relevant, obviously, for mountain biking, but it's also great for normal everyday life as well. And and it just seems so, you're just keeping that enthusiasm and that fun edge.
And for a while, and for a while, I kind of battled with this. What do I want from social media? And it was always kind of showing people what we do, getting them interested, and building trust. So someone could watch 20 videos and explanations on YouTube about my principles of training. And then you weed out the people that don't buy into it, and you keep the people interested that believe in your system. and then they might buy your program eventually. But otherwise, 99% of people don't buy the program.
No. Yeah.
But then 1% conversion rate on your numbers is brilliant.
Yeah.
You know? And so when you look at Instagram, my desire to grow Instagram isn't because I want to be an influencer.
Yeah.
You know, I'm supported by Fox Racing,
Yeah.
clothing, and a bike company, Propane,
Yeah.
because they basically like what I do. They like my principles,
Yeah.
and they want to be part of that,
Part of it,
which
yeah.
is fantastic.
Yeah.
But I'm not an influencer.
No.
I don't get product to advertise
Yeah.
and make money from.
You're basically just using it as a tool. It's an
Yeah, to
advertising
sell
tool.
my
Yeah.
programs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I am an influencer with the sole goal of selling programs.
Yeah.
And the more people that see me and the more people that trust me, the more
likely
likely.
you are to.
And someone asked that a while ago, a marketing consultant said, well, why do you want to grow your following? Does it really help?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, yeah, look at the data.
Yeah.
Look at the following then and the data then, and we could nail it down to about 1%. And we're like, so therefore, if I raise my following next year, I'm going to raise. So if I double it, I should double my subscribers.
Yeah.
And
Lo and
it
behold.
happens.
Yeah.
So then you end up in this
amazing how
system.
It's amazing how a marketeer would even ask you that question.
I know, because I
It's
think
kinda like,
because we're in a niche market.
Yeah.
If I started putting out videos and say grow your biceps in 3 weeks,
yeah.
then I'd lose trust of the people I gain trust with.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then my Instagram might be 1 million followers.
Yeah.
But then they're hollow.
Yeah.
Like then I'd be like, who wants to give me product that I can sell because these people follow me?
Yeah.
And that's like, for me, that's like basically prostituting yourself.
It is.
And honestly, if I had the choice, it took me so long to get comfortable in front of the camera. And I still have my first videos on YouTube. And I'm awkward.
Oh, yeah.
And the editing took fucking ages. And I'd sit there for 2 hours to get like a 3-minute explanation.
Yeah,
And it was so hard to overcome those barriers. I'm the best person for it now.
Yeah.
If there was someone better, they would be there.
They would be in front of the camera.
Yeah, but it just so happens as not. I can't get someone to replace me.
No.
Therefore, I'm there.
But then it comes down to the passion again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and it comes across on the videos, comes across on the...
And fun. I have so much fun.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I have loads of fun.
Yeah.
Now, I work with Johnny, my videographer, editor.
Yeah.
He helps put the programs on the website. And there's days where I'm like, let's just go and get some riding shots. And then we went all the way up to Innerleithen one time, forgot the camera bag. It's like, oh, it doesn't matter. Just ride. Because like we have, and when he started, he hadn't touched a bike for years.
Right.
And now he's absolutely shredding. He's way quicker than me.
Yeah.
Because he's dedicated, he's a decade younger, and
Yeah.
he's so into
in
it.
the zone.
And it's been so great to see him and his passion grow for mountain biking. And actually, funny, him and his wife bought the Penrith gym.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, so his wife Steph was managing the gym.
What, the CrossFit one?
Yeah. So when I sold the Kendall one,
Yeah.
I got such a sense of relief
Yeah.
that I was no longer not meeting expectations of those people.
Yeah.
And within a couple of weeks, I was like, I think I might sell the Penrith one.
Right. It was that soon.
And, yeah, just the realization that, like, and I was in a position where balancing everything, just it was too noisy.
Right.
And even now, there's like, I have this thing since July, so towards the end of the race season.
Yeah.
Oh, cheers. Towards the end of the race season, I knew that I wasn't going to be doing it again this year. And the performance manager stuff.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I came back one day and I was like, Johnny, do you think we can do a reel a day? He's like, well, we've tried it, and he lasted about 4 days. Because back then I was like, I get a little bit of a spurt of inspiration to do it. And then we were trying to juggle YouTube as well. And like, where do you put you? So then we did it, and 2 weeks after doing it, like we were posting maybe 2 or 3 reels a week, which was a reasonable amount, and the following was like 30,000. It was just tinkering along. We're like, oh yeah, we've got like 50 more followers this week. Whereas 2 weeks after starting 1 reel a day, It then went up. We got like 400 in one day. I was like,
Whoa.
fuck me. That's good. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
And then around Christmas, we did 2 a day for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And the spike was unreal. And this is the thing about social media. If you use it as a tool, or you just simply want to improve your following to be an influencer, I'm not going to judge you on that, but do it well.
Send us your products. We'll influence them.
Here,
not.
Here's the data that convinced me to continue that path. We'd done 850 posts over 5 years, and we were on 32,000 followers.
Yeah.
We've now done 1,200 posts. What's the difference? 350?
Yeah.
And we're now on 134,000.
So you got over 100,000.
Yeah.
More.
So then, if you consider the work that goes into those first 850, I've done 350.
Yeah.
And then increased by 100,000. Yeah. Basically, 3 times the number for less than half of the work.
Yeah.
So it's like 7 or 8 times return on the work that you're doing, simply because I learned how to appease the algorithm of Instagram, which is regular, same time, consistent, valuable content that's entertaining.
Yeah.
And then we're just on that cycle now, and we're going.
So, I mean, it sounds dead easy, doesn't it? It's like, It's like, but where do you find your creativity? It's kind of like I'm just on the journey. So I've just started this podcast.
Yeah.
So I've just started the YouTube, just started the Instagram. So it's all a new, exciting adventure for me. So I'm really enjoying. But the creativity that you must have to find on a daily basis to not repeat yourself, and to not sort of think, shit, well, I've already done that, and it's kind of.
But then I'm still learning, so I'm still working with a lot of pro riders.
Right.
So the performance manager job, they had 5 riders that I was looking after.
Yeah.
I still have 4 of them.
Right.
I just don't work for that company.
Yeah.
They stayed with me, and I'm still training them, which is good, a good reflection of what I can help them with.
Yeah.
And they trust me. So, but I'm still always learning, and I'm learning ways of how different things motivate different people on a deeper level.
Yeah.
That's probably for the future. But I think because I'm learning, and when I go into the gym and I'm looking at things differently than I have done before, like once upon a time I was sending people on yoke carries for mountain biking to build core strength, because I found it helped me. I'm like, who has a yoke in the gym? So then I was like, set up a barbell with bands on, do this and that. And so people spend like 3 hours just setting shit up to train. Like, this isn't going to work. But then reframing it. So those pockets of time when I'm warming up and doing the stuff for me to train, sometimes I'll stumble across a movement pattern where I'm like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is like, it's not churn and repetition, but a different way of putting things together.
Right.
So if you imagine you have 4 movements and then 4 ways of doing it, you've got 16 times 16.
Yeah.
So it actually multiplies.
Yeah.
And like, we don't have a movement library on the app, because I don't just link or do a back squat and then link it, because depending on where you are in the season or what type of cycle we're doing, it can be performed 50 different ways.
Yeah.
So every week we film the program so I can explain how to do each movement.
Right.
And each movement can be executed different ways.
Yeah.
And all of that is like, there's too much out there to be able to do like 1 a day. And often...
So you're not struggling for content then?
No, I'm not struggling. No.
It's kind of like you're not sitting there thinking, shit, right, and I've done that one.
Yeah, well, we sit down for 5 minutes and jot down six bangers, and that's it. And we'll go in the gym and we'll film some.
And are you filming sort of daily then, or do you just film once a week?
Nah,
do you 6 or 7?
Really not very structured. So some people could like bank loads.
Yeah.
I filmed 16 in one day one time because I was just on it.
What are your reels times? About 90 seconds.
It depends. It really depends. I put one out today and I think it was 9 seconds.
Right. Oh, right. So they really are.
Yeah, but then others, because I like to explain stuff, they can be up to 90 seconds.
Yeah.
And I'm trying hard not to be too influenced by what the optimum time is.
Yeah, you just
but
do
what seems to be right is you can have a banger bit of valuable content that's around 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Or you can have a
more
deeper,
in-depthy,
meaningful one
yeah.
that's about 60 seconds.
Yeah.
And so round about there, but most of our best performing ones are like 30 or 40.
That you find
but what I do find is that one of those I could have turned into a full YouTube video and tried to drag it out for 10 minutes. YouTube's changed now as well.
Has it?
Where people's attention is just so much less.
It is. That's TikTok's fault.
Yeah. But you just have to consider, why are people still watching right now?
Yeah.
And you don't leave too much value at the end, or you never put your best bit at the end.
No.
You put your bit at the end that answers the question you promised at the start.
Yeah.
But you put your best bit at the start.
Yeah.
And you're like, watch this.
Yeah.
It'll be valuable.
Yeah.
And at the end, you're like, there's your value.
Yeah. See, I told you.
Yeah, exactly. So all of that learning on Instagram and stuff.
But it is, I think anyone who's kind of getting new into the game of sort of social media and all this influencing and creating and whatever.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot harder for them, perhaps.
Yeah.
I suppose depending on what age they might be. I mean, if they're of a certain age where their attention span is already virtually zero, they'll know exactly what to put out and how to use it. But someone older generation, it's going to be like more difficult to.
Well, you'll have a passion for how you want to create something that represents your beliefs of that you're proud of.
Yeah.
And maybe some of these, if I sent them back 5 years and showed me, but I don't think I'd be proud of that.
Yeah.
But I am now because of the reach and the people that I can get to.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I'm not proud of what I'm doing, and I'm not telling a story that I don't believe in. It's just that I've adapted and changed along the way.
Yeah.
A lot of our first videos was literally music, slow motion, people training in like a real cinematic way.
Yeah.
But everything's changed now. People used to love watching that. But you look at mountain bike videos, you get the best mountain biker on the planet ripping through scenery that you've never seen in your life. It's amazing. And the music's brilliant, and there's mist in the air, and the views are shit, because you're like, what am I getting out of this other than looking at a screen for 5 minutes?
Yeah.
And then you go to someone that's done a vlog, a mountain biker, and you're like, I get to see behind the scenes, his opinion, his personality, and a bit more honesty.
Yeah.
And so then you get the value from someone being authentic versus
authenticity, isn't it?
A 50 grand, like fully commercial
Spielberg style advert.
Yeah.
Or someone just chatting on the mobile phone, telling you how it is.
And don't get me wrong, I would love it if social media responded to cinematic footage.
Yeah.
Because we would be setting up the same set as June, and we would have all of that shit, and we would be bang on for making it look epic. But it just doesn't work because people switch off.
Yeah.
As soon as you get a hint of commercial, people don't trust, and they're like, "No, I don't want to watch this because I've seen so much. I've been bombarded." Because back then,
they're numb to it now.
They were the only ones that could do that.
Exactly.
And now everyone can
got
do
the
that.
capability of doing that now.
Exactly.
You can do that on your bloody mobile or virtually nowadays, can't you?
Yeah. So you have to be authentic, and you've got to have some passion and be telling people what's inside of you.
Exactly.
And that's then.
Because I think that's what people, the whole ethos about this podcast that I started was to get people like you on and just have two individuals just talking about things that they love. And that hopefully is coming across as a sort of, a passion that people are kind of not experiencing anymore. Because people don't seem to. Well, this, for instance, doesn't happen a lot nowadays. Two people having a conversation.
Yeah.
Is it?
You get a minute and a half with people when you give them a potato, and you're like, that put energy into my life today.
But that was, you know what? And that was one of the reasons for kind of starting the show as well, was because I only get, me and you chatting, and I know you'll sort of hang on for a bit, and I'm sort of chatting to you and trying to serve someone.
I need to go because there's a queue, and I'll get you next time.
So it's like, start a bit of a podcast show, then I can get people on. You can talk to them for a good couple of hours, however long it is, and then you get to know that person for real, and you get to know their story, and you know what I mean.
It's
And
the
then
inside
other people,
motivations, and I love this as well because podcasts are one of the only ways that you can really get inside of somebody because it's natural, it's authentic. If people are relaxed and you have a nice, relaxing place, and I know you pretty well, and all of this kind of enhances that, so that then you can just come out with whatever.
Yeah. And it's just kind of working. It's working. So a lot of the feedback I've had of guests, they've said that they've totally forgot that they were on like a sort of podcast show. Because I don't have the headphone thing. I don't have the big old mic in your face.
Like, am I close enough?
Yeah. So there's none of that. There's literally just us two in the room.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like they've said that if it had been that other sort of typical sort of podcasty style, they wouldn't have opened up as much as they did.
Because the first podcast I ever went on, I did loads of preparation.
Did you?
And I wrote down everything.
That. Was that what Two Guys Down?
Oh no! This was like 5 or 6 years ago.
Right.
And it was good.
Yeah.
There was lots of value there.
Yeah.
But I really wasn't natural.
Yeah.
I was speedy. Yeah. But then that last one I went down.
Yeah.
I messaged the guy. I was like, I think I'd be good on your podcast. I actually had a guy say, you should go on this podcast. He only charges $3,000.
Yeah.
So I just messaged him, you want me on your podcast? He's like, yeah. When can you do it? And so I drove down to Surrey and he's like, what do you want me to ask any specific questions?
Yeah.
And honestly, I drove down thinking nothing about the podcast, listening to music and just audio books and stuff. And I got there and I was like, let's go. Just like, and that's the best way, because then you get authenticity and you don't know where it's going to go. No. And if you go in like, I want to sell my programs. And then that's the same as opening a gym to make money. You go on a podcast so that people can get to know you,
the real you.
But then also maybe get a different spin on their own experiences, or something they might be considering doing, and actually getting value out of someone's experience to say, this is the way I did it and this is the way it worked for me. And maybe these are the things that I wouldn't have done before. And they're the type of podcasts that I like, when you get to hear someone's stories. Be like, well, it was a real struggle then. Because social media makes you believe that everyone's having the best 100%. Life. And then you're like, well, no, that's not right. That is not right.
And there's a lot of these kind of influencers and guys out there that are saying, give me so much money and I'll turn your show or your into this, and
literally daily we get approached.
It's crazy, isn't it? And it doesn't happen like that. Even if they haven't got a magic wand.
No.
And it says exactly what we were talking about earlier. You need that passion, you need that commitment, and you need that consistency, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So anything else, no one out there is going to give you a magic little wand to make your life and your business idea happen.
And the thing with all the video stuff, and like opening the gym as a first business was a massive step for me, but it was a natural one, and it happened with low risk. But and I remember doing it, and I used to run with the physio down at work, and she said one day, do you think you'd do this full time? I was like, no, because I don't think it would ever be a global gym and get enough people in to support me. And so I just didn't believe that it was possible, because I had those limitations. Like when you watch movies when you're a kid, you're like, these people, they're different. These actors are special. These are 1 in a million. They are. But they worked hard to get there. They went and they committed to learn acting. And then in the end, you have Christopher Walken there because that's him at the end of that process.
You don't see the struggles.
But the struggle is, where do you find your limitation in your mind that you can't see yourself beyond? And once you get a little bit and you get a taste of, I'm in the unknown, I'm doing something I didn't know I could do, and it's going well for me, then that progression, and now genuinely, like what I'm doing with Fit for Racing is probably only still a small part of the bigger vision.
Become.
People are like, oh well, why are you not just settled where you are? Why do you have to create an app and spend all of that money on that? like, because I want to test where I can go.
Yeah.
And once I have that platform, I can grow that with these other features that I want to explore that no one else in the world is doing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's possible.
Yeah.
But until I've done it, then it's never going to get done.
Yeah.
And everything that's been done has been done for the first time.
Exactly.
Why can't I do something for the first time? And if it fails, I've taken that risk.
Yeah.
And I've experienced failure and I've got over it. It's not been painful because I knew the risk going in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I try not to gamble too much on those risks.
Yeah. It's calculated.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not sort of saying to people, sell your house, sell everything you own.
Well, that's it.
And just go
like
for it.
Like the advice, quit your job, start a business.
Yeah.
Well, you can say that because it's like, maybe you did it back then,
Yeah.
but now it's different. And we're in such a great time because people can do more than one thing.
Exactly.
You can spend time in the evenings
Yeah.
doing a podcast and see how it goes.
Exactly.
Follow a passion that's going to keep you alive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's kind of like what you were just saying then, that everything was once, everything on this planet was just once an idea in somebody's head.
Exactly.
This caravan, that camera, your hat, your t-shirt, everything you could see that is man-made was once just an idea in somebody's head.
And imagine if all of those people listened to the majority
and said,
who are fearing change.
Exactly.
If nothing's wrong, don't change. Yeah. Don't put your head up. Yeah. And this is what it was like at the police. Don't ruffle feathers. But then I went into that job last year, performance manager, and I was like, if I'm not making change, I'm not here.
Yeah.
If I'm not making change, then the value isn't monetary.
No.
I need to be able to be progressing. This isn't just for me to have a job.
Yeah.
And I told them that at the start.
Yeah. I think as well, we're kind of unemployable, aren't we? We are.
my old boss, one of my old department managers left, and his parting words to me was, "Johnny, you are unmanageable."
Yeah, thanks.
I was like, I know. Thing is, though, it's different. It's different. And I think I was probably a little ahead of the curve in the way that I view the world. Yeah. Now I feel like there's a generation there that need more than a paycheck and the promise of a pension. Yeah, yeah. My parents told me, work hard, so then you can go on holiday and enjoy yourself. You can have two weeks holiday a year, work for 40 odd years, get a good pension, and then and then you can retire. So you're like, so I'm on this planet to survive, go on holiday so that I can go back to work, not burnt out, and then retire when I'm fucked and incapable
of doing anything.
And then
maybe have 20 years if I'm lucky. So
so then back to Phoenix and now Honey.
Yeah.
I'm like, guys, you just do whatever you want. Yeah. And honestly, I'll support you if you're passionate and you're doing it for the right reasons. Because you look at some of the, like, Elon Musk has not done what he's done for money. No. He got money from PayPal to facilitate his vision of something greater than him. Yeah. That isn't going to be realised until he's dead. Yeah. It's like planting an oak tree.
I was just going to say that. It's like planting an oak tree.
And you sit in your garden when it's 20 foot high and you take your final breath, you know, that oak tree is going to be mega.
And it will be.
Yeah. And what you retire from a corporate or secure job, and then what do you have? You got no purpose. You got no skills that are relevant to doing anything with passion.
No, exactly. Well, I think as well, your passion, if you ever had it in the first place, has been kind of drummed out in those kind of institutions, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Because you're just purely, I think, because of the nature of the beast of those institutions, whether it be councils or sort of...
Everyone's a robot in the McDonald's model.
Yeah.
Where you are there to do that specific role in a bigger machine.
Yeah, yeah.
And I get that.
You should be grateful.
Yeah.
You should do and you should enjoy your 2 weeks off. And it's kind of like, I think now, going back to social media as well, I suppose, that it's probably showing people, you know, that there is whether it's true or false that the people are portraying, but it's showing people that there is another way.
Yeah.
You can...
There's a way to reach people like you.
Yes.
Once upon a time, you go in town and you know the people that you'd have a good time with.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, you can reach anyone in the world that can follow you, communicate with you, bring ideas and propositions and opportunities.
Yeah.
I've got this deal with Fox and I've not met any of them. Because we have virtual meetings, we have Zoom meetings and stuff. And like a lot of the riders that I coach, well, all of them are all around the world. Australia, America, Canada, Germany.
See, that's crazy, isn't it? Now, years ago, right? Say, for instance, going back to like the golden age of bodybuilding, so Schwarzenegger and Tom
Gold's Gym and that,
So they all, Arnold's classic example, came all the way from Austria
to go to the best bodybuilding gym.
Now, I bet you now, some kid in Austria, turning it the other way around, someone in California could easily teach that kid the same sort of skills that's needed to become a Mr. Olympia without them ever meeting.
Exactly.
It's crazy,
Mega.
Absolutely crazy.
And so that new generation where they're getting to know people and they're comfortable with that relationship having never met in person.
Yeah.
It's weird when you meet some people for the first time and you're like, I know you. But it's like that kind of barrier where you're like, should I know you?
Should I shake hands? Should we hug? Should we do what?
But that is so good because like literally anything that you're passionate about, like, I don't know, I'm really passionate about lights like this. Right? I'm going to share my passion. I'm going to be creative about the way that I show my passion.
Yeah.
Before long, people are like, they're fucking good lights. I love lights like that. Yeah. And then and you can build a community around people that are into the same stuff that you are.
Yeah. Whatever the niche.
Like, and there's the difference between wannabe influencers and people that are just showing people their passion.
That are authentic.
Yeah. Wannabe influencers, there's so many out there like, oh, I use this makeup and I do this and that. And you're like, you are copying someone else that has done this better than you. Yeah. And you're getting something back for it that still facilitates you doing it. Yeah. But I feel bad for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Where like they're motivated by wanting to be this person.
And their lifespan is only a certain field of time.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Exactly.
You know, it's not got longevity, has it?
Because there's nowhere to move outside of that niche that you've chosen.
Yeah.
Like I've had so many opportunities from what I do.
Yeah.
And right now I'm choosing to stay tight.
Yeah.
Because I have a bigger vision.
Yeah.
And it's going this way.
And I suppose last year you kind of realised that if you do take your eye off the ball, the ball loses momentum.
Exactly. So I keep on. Not that I wasn't passionate and I changed my passion.
Yeah. No, it's just you wasn't giving the percentage.
Exactly. So when I go this way and I get there, then I can do take it somewhere else, like develop it.
Yeah.
But if you're stuck into that niche, like you're an influencer that grows their biceps and you have 1 million followers, how many more are there? Yeah. And how much more product are they going to give you when you're asking for 10 grand and this guy who's up and coming is asking for 500 quid? Yeah. And then it's a battle of pricing and everything bottoms out. Yeah. The value isn't in your audience because everyone has the audience. Yeah. Your value is in the audience that believes in what you believe and follows your passion for that particular thing. Yeah. And that's what I had a kid in for work experience and he doesn't do social media. I asked his mum if he could set up an account.
Oh, was he too young or what?
No, he's 15. Wow. And they just chosen not to.
Right.
And before he came, I was like, oh, damn, he's going to miss a massive part of what I can teach him.
Yeah.
Which actually, it was good that he wasn't already on because I think I taught him enough where he doesn't need it. Yeah. I don't use personal social media at all. Yeah. I don't go on Facebook whatsoever. Yeah. I cross-share and I don't even check it. Yeah. Because Facebook's full of articles that are nonsense. Yeah. And you get drawn into this shit that's not true. In a state of anxiety where...
It's true, isn't it? Yeah. It's like your anxiety levels go through the roof.
Yeah. It's like the northern lights are going to cause cancer. Fuck! You're like under your lead bed sheet, like, fuck off northern lights. Miss that opportunity.
It's mental.
Because that's facilitated by bigger companies on clickbait that get paid for your view. Yeah. So you click on a page, read an article, and that pop-up there on the side, someone's paying for you to see that, even though you don't see it. Yeah. We paid for a banner ad on a popular mountain bike website, and it was fit for racing X number of times, this many views, and we got absolutely zero back from it.
Really?
Yeah. Because people are blind to that shit.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
people will go to the website and they take their data from the website and take it to a company and say, we get 15 million views on this website every day.
Yeah.
You can be in front of those people. Just give me $5,000.
Yeah.
And I'll put you there for a day.
Yeah.
And that's marketing.
Yeah.
That's a not very...
And that's where all this data madness is now in it.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not. It's kind of like, this is why data is such a powerful thing.
Well, that's what made Amazon, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't he had a bookshop.
No.
It was what he did with the data from it to then hone the way he was selling books and then CDs and then this and that. And now
it's just a norm.
Look at Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're led by what's working off the data.
Yeah.
But then people are selling shit off data because of their traffic.
Yeah.
Which then facilitates all this crap on Facebook.
Yeah.
Which is really bad because it harms people as well.
It does.
And I know all social media can be bad.
Yeah.
Like Instagram, you can be looking at people that look better than you and you want to be in better shape and it puts you on a downer, or like, you know, and you can look at all of these people having a great time and reflect on yourself. But ultimately, Instagram's less of the news.
Yes.
I don't watch or listen to the news
I don't
either
anymore. I've got rid of all my apps off the Sky News.
Yeah.
Mainly because everything is just, it's so divisive.
Yeah.
It's just bad news. It's just designed to bring you down all the time. There's nothing
it's
good about
preying on human nature. Where there's fear, there's attention.
Exactly.
If you create fear, you get eyes.
Yeah.
So you create an article based around fear.
Yeah.
People want to click on it.
Yeah.
And then they get traffic and get paid for it.
Yeah.
Sky News wouldn't be there if they just had good news.
Of course I wouldn't.
And it might sound bad because I want to be ignorant to whatever else goes on in the world. But I probably wouldn't want to know there's a meteorite going to kill me 10 minutes later. Because then it would fuck my week.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Fuck my oak tree as well.
But it's true. It's like, we're not ignorant to the way of the world. We're not ignorant to what goes on in the world. We just don't want it rammed down our throat.
Yeah.
24/7.
And you can only influence so much of what you do with the things you see in front of you.
Yeah.
And you always have that choice of, you could call me the worst thing in the world. And I'm proud of being really hard to offend.
Yeah.
Because, well, I don't even know why. I just accept.
Yeah.
And any truth you can tell me, I won't take offense because I probably did it to myself. And people call me a dick on social media all the time. Like, well, probably look a bit like a dick there. So you're completely valid.
Fair point.
And if anyone's challenging any advice that I have, I'm like, fair challenge. What are you basing that off?
Yeah.
Well, I did this study, and some guy recently, I studied 1,000 motocross riders, and then I was like, oh, could you forward me those so I can read those?
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, I'm really surprised that you reply. I expected a fight. But I should qualify that this is for motocross riders and it might work for mountain bikers. So he's already retracted his hard, and then we build up a relationship. And he's like, oh, if you're ever in Brazil, call me, Alex. Come and stay, shag my sister.
Wow. It's true, because I had a guest last week on, and he almost exactly the same sort of thing. He had a real nasty comment on one of his YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And obviously this guy was expecting a tit for tat fight online, and he just says, oh, actually, something very similar. I said, oh yeah, I kind of get where you're coming from. What would you suggest? And then the guy was like, obviously totally taken aback. And now they've become
a lot of
like
these
best
people,
pals.
though,
I think they've even done a video together because.
But that's it. And you see these polarizing opinions of YouTubers coming together and saying, well, we're here because we want the same thing and we have different beliefs and we're going to explore that. And that's like an honest way to do it, rather than saying, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Because what I've learned from training CrossFit is that most things work.
Yeah.
And if you're too committed to one idea, excluding everything else, you miss the opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
And so if someone comments on something, then there's motivations behind that. Often it's to get a response and interaction which stimulates them and makes them feel important, which is fine.
Yeah.
And you can identify those.
Yeah.
And others, you can have a bit of fun with it as well, you know, and you can get a bit of like banter going and other people supporting and arguing and this and that. And then very rarely do I feel emotion to type something that like angers me because what you have to understand is everyone in the world only knows what they know.
Yeah.
I only know what I know.
Yeah.
So if this person has an opinion, either they don't know what I know or I don't know what they know.
Yeah.
Why don't we share that and then do we have the same opinion at the end?
See if we can meet in the middle.
It's like all fights are like that, aren't they?
Yeah.
And then if you could just have that resolution,
yeah.
you both learn a bit, or someone's too stubborn and then you realise that, well, maybe I've learned something about that.
Yeah.
It wasn't worth my time.
Basically, yeah. Because I suppose there are some people that you're never going to get across to.
No, and you accept that. You accept that. I don't want to change everyone's opinions about mountain bike training.
Yeah.
And this is what I've said to other mountain bike trainers that have tried to copy.
Yeah.
Like, stick to your style.
Yeah.
Stick to your passion and the way that you train people, and you will get people following you.
Yeah.
But don't copy me because you don't know me.
They're not you for a start.
Yeah.
Everybody, I don't think anybody should copy anybody else. You should all just do. We're all unique. We're all different. We've all got our own little quirks, our own little ways, and we should embrace those and just go and run with them, shouldn't we? You know, and be you. Be
and like social media,
authentic
I try not to look at other people and say, I'm going to do that. I'm going to take a carbon copy but put my content in because that worked for that person. Instead, I'd rather learn, what does Instagram respond well to? What's the format and the blueprint? And then, well, potential for doing better than anyone else.
Yes.
Because if you're ever going to copy anybody, the best you can hope for is the same as them. Right?
Yeah.
Unless you change and you do something different, then that's your ceiling.
Exactly.
And being uninfluenced, and I think CrossFit, when it first started, it's like, this is such a cool thing. And I went to the Carlisle gym 3 times.
Yeah.
It's like, this is different from what I have experienced online from headquarters. And my understanding of what CrossFit is about. Then I'm going to have my representation of it. And so then it was my expression of what
It was great for you then, because you could put your own unique stamp on it.
Exactly.
So you had sort of like an umbrella organisation.
Yeah.
But then you were free to...
And I'm like, what stimulates me in the realms of what CrossFit is teaching us and outside of? So later on, integrating other things that maybe were outside of traditional CrossFit training. And then that's you kind of expressing and sharing what's worked with you based around what got you hooked in the first place. You know?
And I mean, there's a clue in the title, in the CrossFit.
Yeah, it was cross training.
It's like a bit of everything chucked in.
Exactly.
So that you'd have thought that whole... So when people are like, you said a minute ago, that people are like now so focused on just specifically doing this and specifically doing that, it's kind of losing that ethos of what CrossFit, I'd imagine, was first conceived
for. I competed in CrossFit, so wanting to be a CrossFit athlete, that changed the dynamic in the gym. And it was very much a competitive gym. As a small gym, when we looked at our competitions around the UK, we were really good.
You were up there,
because that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But then the lines blurred, and it was only until I looked back, I was like, these are 2 different things. And it was only when I had that realization that I really had a bit of an epiphany. And I think it was when I started training actual athletes.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? When you coaching somebody who is the best in the world at a sport. And you're like, this person I got to be careful with. Because this is their career. But on the flip side, I'm coaching this very young rider with super high potential. And what I like to believe is what I help them with directs the rest of their life. And the passion that I can put into them, I can allow them to be the best in the world, and I can allow them to believe it. And what better than being like, oh, I used to mountain bike in my late teens, I was pretty good, but I just kind of fell off the wagon. Or, shit, look at that guy. And have some sense of pride that you could facilitate somebody's entire life into doing exactly what they wanted with their passion, you know? Which is really cool because, like, as a coach, I was talking about kids the other day with somebody, a rider, said if you ever feel joy watching someone succeed, you should have children.
Yeah.
But then it's coaching as well. It's like everyone's your child. Everyone has potential.
I'd imagine some teachers are like that because there's good and bad teachers, isn't there, in schools?
Yeah. There's the academics and there's the passionate ones.
The passionate ones. And the passionate ones are the ones that I still remember now. You know, I left school over 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And you still remember the names of the passionate teachers.
Yeah.
So that says a lot. And, you know, even though I left school with nothing, no qualification.
Brendan McManus.
Was he the guy?
McManus, yeah. He just got me.
Yeah. And
it's
like
because
this. They've got a passion. Isn't it? And that's what, you know, we've talked about it so much on this show tonight, but it's kind of like passion, no matter what field you're in your life. If you've got a passion for something, you will draw people to you, won't you? It's inevitable. You can't help it. So whether you're a teacher, an athlete, a business person, you know, whatever you happen to be.
And all the social media and all of the marketing and everything that I learned about that isn't just for more people, for me to feel good about it.
Exactly.
It's like it's allowing the visibility to draw more of those people in.
Yeah.
Like I might be seen by 1 million people and 10 hook on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fantastic.
Yeah.
These are 10 of my people. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
It's true.
And then, that kind of, it's self-facilitating.
It is.
But and I don't want it to seem like I'm not like wholesome about it, where I'm just doing my passion and then you get people follow. It's like, and that I'm desperate for people to follow me. It's just like,
I don't think that
it's an opportunity.
At all. It's just because it's like we said, it's just a tool. It's just another tool in your toolbox of marketing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
That's all it is. So, and it's a great one because it's free.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why would you not use social media? And it's stupid not to.
I imagine in the 80s, you'd have to pay for an advert on one of 4 channels.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
and
newspapers
and
stuff.
Cost.
Yeah.
And the money you would have chucked away for, you know, because
speculative marketing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely mental to think what they've got now. Someone in business now is just starting out. It must be like,
or someone that's starting out with something that they're mega into, and they're already on social media.
Yeah.
Don't be posting what other people are posting because you think people want to see that.
Yeah.
Post what's important to you.
Yeah.
And then people will come.
They will.
Build it and they'll come.
Yeah.
Who was it?
Wayne's World.
No. Oh no. Yeah. Well, that was after. Know where your passions are. Kevin Costner was at Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams. Yeah.
Build it and they will come.
And it's true.
Yeah. Why are you building a baseball court in a cornfield? You're like, and it's almost, that's like a spin on like what's possible from what you might think is stupid.
Yeah. But it's that they say, if nobody's laughing at your dreams, then they're not big enough.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to dream bloody big.
Yeah.
Because what's the point otherwise?
Exactly.
You know, we've both had kind of dreams and ambitions and thoughts of how we want our business and our lives to be, the same as everybody.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's kind of like, and they always have been big, but we don't always tell people what they are for that fear of
I don't
ridicule. And
I don't tell many people about like the ultimate dream.
No.
I don't even know what it is yet.
I don't.
But when we get there, we'll know.
Yeah.
But then we won't know.
Is it just a nice constant journey? Because like you already touched earlier about how it's kind of like you're constantly doing things and improving things.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're the sort of people that will get to a certain point, a bit like, say, I'm comparing us to Elon Musk now, which we kind of, people like us are in that same field of people, aren't we?
Vision, but going after it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we will never get to a point where, I've achieved it, I've done it, fantastic. We'll always, till the day we take our last breath, we'll be constantly just striving for something else.
I said to this kid yesterday, driving back from riding, and I said, believe it or not, I always have this vision that once I'm financially free and kind of tired, I'm just going to get a workshop and do some woodworky stuff. He's like, Johnny, that's never going to happen. You'll give it a week, and you'll get a pool table in there, and then some disco lights. And I was like, yeah. And then we can invite only. And then we've got this new business model for the workshop, which is going to be in the middle of nowhere, invite only, ultra club. Right? It's going to start with 20 people, but only 10 can come back. The shit 10 can never come back, and the good 10 can invite one more person next time until we get 100 people in this club a decade down the line, and Elon comes in, like, I was waiting for my invite.
It's true.
Like, you're not coming back though, you shit crack.
Go on, piss off to Mars.
You got to be fun though, Elon.
But it's so true, isn't it? It's kind of like, I think certain people, and I've seen people over the years, and they've kind of like done that typical, got a good job, got a pension. Next thing, you don't see them. Then you see a picture of them in the local paper, in the obituaries, the brown bread, and it's kind of like, what?
But it's hard. It's the world we live in, and we're in the confines of finance.
Yeah.
You get a job, and it takes up the majority of your time.
Yeah.
Then you have children, and that's the rest of your time.
Yeah.
And so you see mountain bikers now, e-bikers, whose kids have moved out.
Yeah.
And they used to ride 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
And they're now on e-bikes and like, I'm loving my life.
Yeah.
You're like, this is brilliant. And it's not a shame that they had to do that patch in the middle.
No.
Because this, ultimately, for most people, when they have kids, you have to do that to be able to survive and provide.
Exactly.
And I'm not probably have disrespected the people that don't have the opportunity to do it. But honestly, like when you
all we're trying to portray is the fact that we're not disrespecting those people for doing the jobs that they've chosen to do. It's just we're saying to people that are probably thinking there's more to life.
Those people that sit with a passion.
Go for it.
Yeah. If you're sitting there with a passion and a question, what if?
Yeah.
There's ways you can test it.
Yeah.
Now with digital connections and social media, you can test whether that passion has legs to allow some finance.
Exactly.
Even to go part-time and do half of your time.
Yeah.
Because how brilliant for me to tell my kids, like, Dad, what are you doing today? Like, whatever I want.
Yeah. It's true, isn't it?
I write programs. Sometimes it takes me an hour to write the programs, half an hour to film them. That's my week's work done. Everything else, I used to make lists of stuff I had to do.
Yeah.
Now it's lists of things that I choose to do, and I pick off the ones that I want to. And if I don't do them, I'm not going to do them.
And if you hadn't took that sort of plunge, so to speak, potentially you could have still been down at the police HQ, staring at fingerprints all day.
But how many people would be like, well, I can work an hour and a half a week, get Johnny's income, and I'll play Xbox for the rest of the time. You're like, but how many people would just not have anything else that drives them forwards?
Yeah.
Like everything that I'm in now, I've facilitated for this environment that I'm in of progression. So I'm still having to be fit and fitter because my targets are different. Mountain biking is different. Racing enduro is different from CrossFit.
Yeah.
These things support my actual business, which is telling people to ride and train.
Yeah.
But also the creativity, the ability to be able to realize a vision on camera. Like, I wish pictures were better received on Instagram because I'd probably be way more into photography.
Yeah.
Like taking pictures and being able to Lightroom them and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know Peter Ostrowski?
Yeah. No, Peter well.
So he took loads of pictures and
he got into. Did you get him into the CrossFit thing?
He came.
He was at your gym for a while, wasn't he? Did he just sort of say he was a photographer?
I'm going to claim that I got him into the pictures and stuff.
Yeah.
Only because he was there and.
Because he does some amazing pictures. Because he'll go in some crazy angles and on the floor and upside down.
Yeah.
But the pictures he gets for the CrossFit Games, I'm going to tag Peter on this.
Yeah, do it. So. What a man. He's so cool. He gives you energy.
He does. He's such a great guy.
But that's the guy. He's doing his passion and like he's almost on the brink, but he's still working.
Yeah.
And he's still got that little anchor.
Sort of safety
Do you know
net,
what I
isn't it?
mean?
Yeah,
And he's like, maybe the price he's charging is enough to keep doing both.
Both, yeah.
But like, just up it by 25%.
Yeah.
Sack that off.
Yeah.
No, actually, I'm saying that. However, I train a professional mountain biker who's also a full-time banker.
Wow.
And he says both help each other.
Right.
They both limit each other, but he couldn't be a full-time banker without being able to go and follow his passion and vice versa.
So, like we said again earlier, that everybody's different and everybody's unique. So, doing their passion full-time might not work for them.
Yeah, and a lot of the time it makes it into a job. That was a worry for me as well. When I was first asked, would you ever do this full-time?
Yeah.
Would you do this as a job? And one of my first ideas would be that if it's a job, it'll be like any other job I've had, where I'm into it, then I'm not into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to be fair, it probably happened like that.
Yeah.
It's maybe my ADHD, but I found myself in a place where I can obsess and focus really well on what I'm really into at that time, and it boosts. Every time it boosts, and I might pivot and boost, but it's like Mario bouncing, like, do you know what I mean? Just hope that I miss, and it's like, I've not got 3 more lives. But at the moment, I'm like on a power up. I've got some fucking wings on and shit, and I'm like, I see everything in front of me, and I'm like boosting to it, and maybe kind of ignorantly and selfishly ignoring some peripheral things. To be honest, I probably just made myself in a place where I have the least amount of responsibility because I don't do well with responsibility and expectation. I have this thing.
Would you say, because you touched on ADHD then, so would you say that was part of the condition
I think,
of that?
I think it's a separate condition which is somewhat related. So ADHD, I've probably just got ADD, so I'm not hyperactive.
So you just got
unless I'm in a very stimulated, like place, like lots of friends, alcohol and stuff. I get pretty hyped. Otherwise, it's pretty much in my head. And I can find myself in a paralysis where the noise is a lot, and the options in front of me are too much. And the demand of everything, I must do this and that by the end of today. End of the day comes, I've done none of it. I've gone out on my bike to escape it. But then I have a shit ride because they're in my head still. And this is why I've kind of tried to reframe it as choices. I'm making the choice to do this. By choosing to do this thing I don't want to do right now, I'll feel better. It doesn't always work. But the other thing is pathological demand avoidance, which my wife diagnosed me with years ago. And I was like, I don't even want to know what that is.
It doesn't sound good, does it?
Until I heard somebody on a podcast talking about their recent ADHD and autism.
You were telling off camera that you've not long diagnosed with ADHD.
So I always felt like I wasn't good at school. Yet some things I did really well.
Because did you say that you were dyslexic, but was that picked up at school?
So when I was primary school, this was like when dyslexia wasn't necessarily a thing. It was definitely not diagnosed on the NHS. And it was a really good primary school teacher suggested to my parents, because I was going from class and being incapable to fuzzbuzz, like an extra learning class. And then I wasn't there. I didn't have a place. So they were like, what's he doing in here? And I'd be there and like, he's not really doing here. What he's, you know, and she was like, take him for a test. Took me for a test. The other teacher was like, why? Why give him that label? You know, because all it was a label then. And there wasn't much understanding about it. So everything that I experienced growing up into my 40s now, everything I thought was because I was dyslexic. But then I didn't identify with dyslexic people because I met them and I worked with them. I was like, I'm not like that person. So actually, I probably have mild dyslexia, but ADD, which only got diagnosed at the end of last year. Because I was doing research on my son, and I was like, hell, this sounds familiar. And then I did an online, I thought this will be a bit of fun.
Yeah.
I was like, brilliant, I scored 58 out of 60.
I've got everything.
Yeah. And I can't remember who said it. Said, "Oh, tell your doctor." So I sent her the results, and she said, "I'll refer you to a specialist." And basically got an online meeting with a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Yeah, you've got ADHD," and then waited and basically got medication, which, because I'd done the research, I was quite happy with the way that it might go.
Right.
And my worry was, when I first looked into it, was that a medication would change the way I thought. It would numb me. And the way where I am now is because of all of those things. And I wouldn't want to remove any.
Yeah.
Like an antidepressant.
Yes.
When you see people on an antidepressant, it changes them somewhat.
It's from lithium and something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I was worried about that. But then when I started, I was like, shit, this is the stimulation in the back of my mind that my mind has always been searching for. So even looking at fingerprints, I'd be listening to podcasts. Right. When I ride my bike, I ride it best listening to music. Yeah. I don't know, couldn't like sing along to it, but something there. Yeah. So this is like a slow release amphetamine, basically.
Right. What that you're on now?
Yeah. Not like a huge dose. Yeah. But it ultimately stimulates my primal brain into thinking I'm getting what I'm needing. Yeah. And without it, there's a search. There's like a big search all of the time. Not all the time, but I just feel way more stable, in control, and happy.
So I wonder, were you unhappy then, would you say, before? Consciously unhappy or not?
Honestly, looking back, I didn't realize I was this kind of person, but when I had all of my choices were in front of me after leaving work, I had massive ups and downs.
Did you?
One summer, I didn't really work on my business at all because I was paralyzed by everything. The app was taking way more time and money than I expected. And I'd pinned my hopes on that obsession of when it's released, this is it. Yeah. But then it got pushed back, and then it didn't have the features that I wanted, and the cost was high, and I was like, you fucked me. Yeah. Yeah. And then for that summer, I was probably like kind of in a state of like internal depression, demotivated. Yeah.
Just overwhelmed, was you saying?
Because I had such a massive spike of stimulation on the potential of what would happen. Yeah. Like visualizing the future. And when it failed, I just had a grounding and a feeling of not being motivated. Like, what's the point? Yeah. And the cycles were short sometimes and long others. And it's hard to describe, but you kind of get, with my experience of ADD, you have that fixation on something. Yeah. And until it's realised, it's always in the back of your mind.
Just niggling away.
And whenever I have nothing to do, I get on a downwards spiral. Yeah. And I'm stimulated by watching YouTube videos and maybe exercising. But when that runs out, the stimulation's less, and I'm social media, like doom scrolling. Yeah. And then I just find myself in a state of, I wouldn't even say low self-worth, but low motivation. Yeah. And that was probably affecting the people around me as well, which isn't fair. Yeah. Like, even if I could say I'm just not in a good place, that still doesn't change the effect that you have on people. If you recognize it and you're sorry about it, it still doesn't change what you're doing. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry I punched you in the face. It doesn't change the fact you punched someone in the face. Although I've been punched in the face a lot, and most of the time, like, it's probably because they're in a bad place. Not because I've been a mouthy twat. But now, and I think along with the medication, I'm not entirely saying that that's the right path or what has changed me, but understanding a lot and probably being more of a release of looking back over my past history and seeing my actions and behaviors as something that I'm not going to say wasn't in my control, because I believe that anyone can control anything. Yeah. I kind of overcome dyslexia because at school I was told I had to write and read, and it became something that was forced upon me, so I pushed against it. Yeah. When I didn't read a book until I read that marketing book, and then I read 100 books. Yeah. And because I read more, my dyslexia was way better.
Yeah.
And I had fear of reading out loud. I still have it. It's awful. Yeah. And like, I just make shit up because the paralysis of looking at the words with the expectation of getting them right is difficult for me. Yeah. But I always put my creativity down and my behaviors to dyslexia, and I saw it as a superpower. I know it's all over social media. If you have ADD, you have a superpower. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, actually, I have this other thing, and now I understand it. I can be at one with it. Yeah. I can appreciate where I'm good, where I'm bad. And actually, I listened to a book about sporting mentality, and the guy used to be a drug addict, an alcoholic, and he went to AA meetings, and there was a mantra, something about God give me strength to change the things that I can, or
not to do something.
And basically I accept the things that I can't, and the strength to change, to recognize, strength to recognize the difference. So it's like recognizing where you're strong, recognizing where you're weak, but understanding the difference between them,
and accepting that.
And I feel like I look back and I think it's such a shame, but a necessary school environment that everyone's there to meet grade requirements in this system, much like when I worked at the police. I was in that system, and there was a requirement, and that was all laid out because the majority of people fall into that. If I had been born into some hippie group that homeschooled and believed in Mother Earth and freedom, then I could have been allowed to explore the things that not only interested me, but I was better at because of that. And actually, some of the things that I tried really, I had a belief a long time ago that those weaknesses I have to bring up to speed. Right. Like CrossFit. I'm not a good weightlifter. To be good, I've got to bring it up so that I'm not the best at anything, but I'm great at everything, and I can beat on par anyone else at those things. Life's different. Accept the things that limit you, that you're not good at, and don't flog your pan in before, get to a minimum standard so you can function, then pick that one thing that you're best at. Fucking go with it. Sky hop, Mario style, you know?
It's true.
And just make sure that those things you're bad at are maintained. And I'm lucky because I have Johnny now who puts the programs onto the website. And when I was doing it on my own, I'd be emailing the email list on a Monday morning. Sorry guys, I've had a fault with the system. Just on Sunday night, I was like, fuck this. I always send them out on a Sunday night, and then I was like, in the end, sometimes like, well, what's going to happen? It's only me. And you know, like finding people around you, and I guess that's how good Elon Musk's happen. Because they know a little about a lot, but they have a passion and an expertise, and so they find people around them that are good at the things they're not good at. Like you find the people that can fill in the gaps, whether it's work colleagues, whether it's a wife that's awesome, and you get that support, then you can be brought up. And that's what I want for my kids, is that I can help identify those things that they can push forward with, be at one with the things that they have to accept they're never going to be great at, but
they've got functionality at it.
Encourage them to get that minimum standard. Do you know what I mean? Like Phoenix, if you want to be an architect, then maths is important. And although you want to do super maths, get the foundations of the principles and build on it slowly. But you might be doing these other things quicker. Do you know what I mean? And it's school system, isn't it? I was good at maths at primary school, but then I missed fundamentals, and by the time I was at secondary school, I went down the classes because I was expected to know the things that I missed. Do you know what I mean?
Well, do you know what? I don't know the alphabet.
Right.
Because they taught us the alphabet in junior school.
Just like a mantra.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I get to the middle bit and it all goes Pete Tong. So I could do the beginning.
You're dyslexic?
No.
Oh, right.
But I missed when they taught that that bit. So
right.
So I get to the LMNOP, WPQR. It's like, what? And then I kind of wing it. And when I'm terrible when I'm searching for something on Netflix or Amazon on the telly. Everyone hates when I do it because I take so long. because especially if it's alphabetical.
Yeah.
So I'm like, right, there's where the bloody hell's this? And most other people will just go boom, but I'm like looking. You forget.
That's meant. I was so bad at writing.
Yeah.
And then I ended up being pretty good at typing. But I didn't practice when I was a kid because it wasn't really a thing. But now I'm really I can go really well because they just go. And then I saw a thing recently on Guy Ritchie.
Yeah.
So he did the first, was it Snatch or Lock, Stock and Two?
Yeah.
So he did that off a super small budget. And then for Snatch, they basically said, let's get writers.
Yeah.
Because he was like, let's write a script.
Yeah.
And it was, no one could read it. He was like so bad at writing. And then he got himself a laptop and he's like, he can just do it. Like super fast, mega good. Dyslexic.
Yeah.
Misunderstood.
Yeah. Just
that foundation that he couldn't get, that was probably like me. I got after school help with a tutor because my parents were invested in my future.
Yeah.
Like if you don't get C's at GCSE, that limits you.
Yeah.
Like I went back to night class to get a better grade because I got a C and a D in English.
Yeah.
So I went back and I was like, I know why I should get this now, and I got an A.
Right.
I mean, not based off spelling, but it was like, it wasn't forced on me. I saw some purpose, and I was like, actually, and that's the difference. Is like
100%. When you want to learn, I thought the camera had gone off. Then when you want to learn, then you will learn.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that. But when it's forced upon you, like there were certain lessons at school, I kind of excelled at, even though I jacked off the exams and I didn't bother doing any. Yeah. But certain subjects I absolutely adored because, again, passionate teacher.
Yeah,
they made
you buy into them,
and so they made you want to learn about it.
Yeah,
because their passion rubbed off on you.
But I see now our kids are at Temple Salby Primary School.
Yeah,
and we actually moved there because we saw the school, and we bought into that idea. Small school. We knew Phoenix was sensitive, might have needs that were worth exploring.
Yeah.
To be able to bring the best out of him.
Yeah.
And honestly, the way they teach now is so much different. So different. Well, I just wonder what it'd be like now if I was in that environment then. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I think for a fact, I know I'd be a lot more. Because I'm not stupid. I'm not an idiot. I'm an intelligent person.
Comments below.
But back in the 80s, 70s and 80s, things like that weren't. I mean, I'm sure 90% of the teachers back then, it was just a job to them.
Yeah.
I'm sure most of them were psychopaths as well because
the
abuse you used to get off them was insane. There's no way in the world.
You see people like Guy Ritchie, and then the guy that I listened to on the podcast, Rob Warner, and the stories and the history, and you wonder about them coming into fruition later.
Yeah.
Because they've had to have that time to understand who they are.
Yeah.
Instead of conforming and always feeling like you're not part of the. You're like, that's something different about me. I don't feel like.
I mean, did you get that conscious thought when you were at school because of the ADHD undiagnosed or?
Yeah, absolutely.
But you, you said, you just put it purely down.
I put it down to dyslexia. Yeah, and I knew that I wasn't feeling the same as the people around me.
But I'm guessing you wouldn't have chatted to your mates about it. You wouldn't. There was no sort of chat about it. You didn't say.
No, and to be honest, I didn't tell for 14 years. I think I told 2 people I worked with.
Right.
What I saw quite a lot of was that people would use dyslexia as a reason to underperform.
Yeah.
Or a get out clause if they're in trouble.
Yeah.
And I didn't ever want to be defined by it.
Yeah.
And like ADD now, like I see so much media, and if I tell people, they're often like, "Oh, why did you want a diagnosis? Yeah. What do you want to achieve from it? Oh, everyone's got that now."
Yeah.
You're like, no, it's probably more recognised.
Yeah.
So the signs are there, and the education exposure's there, so people can reflect and be like, "Actually, I should get checked out."
Yeah.
And this is helping so many people. If people feel like I do now versus 2 years ago about how they are, why would you ever
not
pin that to, oh, it's just a social media thing now, or it's just in the media more, and just people trendy. Want it, you know, like, oh, look at you, oh, you're one of the lucky ones, because you're like these entrepreneurs that say, I've got ADHD, it's a superpower. Everyone's a fucking superpower. Here, have ADHD for 40 years, have those struggles, and then tell me, you know. Like,
so what was that thing you were on about? Because we kind of went off track a little bit. You said it was undiagnosed.
Oh, so the
aggression, something?
No, it was the pathological demand avoidance.
Right.
And
that
so
sounds...
Rob Warner, this guy, and he explained it. And it sounds like I'm just a dick.
It just doesn't sound like a good thing.
So depending on who it is and what's at stake, if someone asks me to do something, the majority of time there's a physical block. There's a change inside of me.
I'm like that.
And I'm like,
I am so like that.
No. I'm not going to do that thing. Like, as an example, I'm really, actually, I'm pretty good with my wife, because she fits into the category of someone that I respect and trust. And most of the time she's right. So then I just kind of settled into that. So she asked me to do something. I know I used to get it, but now we're in this, like, we know each other, and like, it's not there anymore, because she's so valuable. And it comes from a place of trust and the worth of what comes out of what they're asking me to do.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as an example, terribly organized. Don't know my parents' birthdays.
Right.
And my brother's birthday would come around, and maybe once every 3 years I'd be like, it's my brother's birthday soon, and there's a thing called Moonpig, so I'm gonna go on and send him a card. But then my mum would text me or call me, are you going to send Richard a card?
And be like,
fuck off! And something inside me would take away the value. And be like, I'm sending this card because my mum wants me to. And I'm like, I was going to be very proud of that act of sending that card, entirely influenced by myself and the want to do it. And now you've taken that away, I'm not going to do it
anymore.
And it's like, that's an extreme version. But it does sound like I'm just pushing against what just people expect for the sake of it.
But I don't know what... I definitely know exactly where you're coming from with that, 100%.
But it is also different if the stakes are super high. So either the risk or the reward are super high. And this is part of, like, my ADHD or ADD struggle, was that unless the stimulation was high or the risk of not doing it was high, then it just fell off.
Right.
Unless I really wanted to do it, or I really, really had to do it, then it wouldn't happen.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this demand of somebody else, it would have to come from somebody that I trusted. And by me doing that thing had value. So like the performance manager stuff, they were asking me for data that I refused to give them, because they weren't taking my advice on the simple shit that would make way more difference than the data I have that you just want to take to your boss and say, look what we're doing. Because they were asking for data that was irrelevant. And it would take me time and effort to give them something that was irrelevant. It was important to them, but I'm like, turn your gaze to what's more important. Because I'm not going to do that for you. And this was the struggle I had. And we ended up basically falling out about that, because our values were different on the things that we're doing. They valued the story and the spreadsheet and them doing their job. I valued the progress and what was important to the riders, but they just couldn't see. And the risk then was, if I don't do it, I won't work for them. And I was like, I don't fucking want to work for you.
So do you reckon that was also a thing that you experienced back when you were working with the police, or is this a relatively new?
Yeah, it was kind of different there, because I still had a desire to do good work.
So if someone told you to do something, 9 times out of 10 you would?
Yeah, I had a real hard-ass boss. So he was good because the stakes were high.
Right.
So if you didn't do what he said, then there would be consequences.
Yeah.
And he was great because he ran a tight ship.
Yeah.
And so for me, if I was in an environment, and I think it's defining the boundaries.
I was going to say that. It's if you know where your boundaries are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes down to communication of expectations.
Yeah.
And if we have a conversation, then it's on me.
Yeah.
So if we have a conversation, you say, right, you're going to do this thing if we work together.
Yeah.
And I'll say, yep. That's entirely on me then.
Yeah.
So in 3 months down the line, you're like, Johnny, why haven't you done that thing? I'll be like, fuck, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Because I said your expectation of me is, and I said that I would do it.
Yeah.
So then it's not you telling me, it's me not performing.
Yeah.
However, if you ask me to do a thing and I ask you to do a thing and you don't do your thing, I'm not doing my thing. Because you have to have high integrity about what you want.
Yeah.
And we've exchanged our expectations of each other.
Yes.
So when you're not meeting my expectations, why would I want to meet yours?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's like this battle, and it's very complicated when like relationships and expectations and things, it's hard to understand how it influences my desire to do something.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, the less I respect and trust you, and if there's many contradictions, or what do you call it, if you're a hypocrite in what you're asking me to do that you wouldn't do, all of those things balance into like my desire to or not to do something.
Yeah.
That's
So how did this
demand avoidance?
Because you said your wife sort of picked up on it, or did she?
I could probably go and wait in a queue and get a diagnosis for that separately. And also autism. So potentially on the spectrum somewhat.
Yeah.
But I'm not prepared to go through a process that then doesn't change much.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where now I understand those things.
Now you're in that frame of mind where you know.
Yeah.
And you can deal with your own.
And I don't need a certificate to say I have it, so I can justify that to people. Because ultimately, knowing that and dealing with myself with the knowledge and understanding of it, then betters me as a person. Yeah. So then that's not for me to use it as a card or a get out clause or an apology. That's me to manage the way that I know that I need to be managed.
Yes, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The ADD thing was only to confirm what I suspected, because that was a little different. Partly because the book I read said that the medication works almost immediately, has almost no side effects, and is one of the best resulting medications for anything.
So this is, you've got to take that now forevermore.
Well, no, I forgot to take it up to Scotland.
All right.
So I went to the first World Cup, and I was like, shit, I left it on the side.
Yeah.
It's like, someone going to post me it, and I thought, well, no, because I managed without it before.
Yeah.
But what I did find was, instead of having 2 coffees and having a reasonably good diet, I had 6 coffees, Red Bulls, lots of sugar. Right. But then I was finding that I was maintaining my level of alertness and concentration with basically
sugar and
stimulants every hour and a half.
Yeah.
You know, which is weird.
Yeah.
Like I'd never felt like I'd had to do that previously to the medication.
Yeah.
And I managed it kind of I didn't set out to do that. I'm like, I'll manage it with sugar. It was just a thing, and I was like, "Oh, I'm feeling all right. I'll keep this up."
Yeah.
But then I reflect back on my behaviour when I've been drunk, and this is something that has been a massive problem for me, is relying on alcohol.
Yeah.
And for a lot of years, well, to be honest, it's been something always in the background. And I could well be an alcoholic if I wanted to.
Yeah. Oh, I could. That's why I've given up.
Yeah.
Because
but like smoking as well. I smoked. People wanted me to stop.
Yeah.
Didn't stop.
Yeah.
When it was time, because I was CrossFitting,
you just
stopped. I just stopped.
Yeah.
It was easy.
Yeah.
Because I had something greater, which was fitness.
Yeah.
But when I'm drunk, something happens at a point where I have less inhibitions.
Yeah.
But I think alcohol also being a bit of a suppressant, which I don't deal with well, then because I'm in a state then with like less limits.
Yeah.
I then search for stimulants. So nicotine,
Yeah.
vodka Red Bulls.
Yeah.
And then you start like bringing yourself back up.
Yeah.
And there is a cycle of you go out for a few, you end up running home at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
because you're just on a cycle of chasing stimulants.
Yeah, yeah.
And like that's troublesome.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping very much now that because that's in the back of the medicated primal brain is stimulated, I don't feel the need to get super drunk or then search for extras. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So have you had a drink since?
Oh yeah. I still drink and enjoy it.
Yeah.
But like CrossFitting for probably 5 years, I maybe get drunk maybe 2-3 times a year.
Yeah.
I would get drunk.
Yeah.
But those were like super hard.
You got drunk.
Yeah, where my wife was like, next Christmas party you have to stay in town. And it's like, so for a couple of years I stay in town. I'm like, that's worse though. George Hotel or Premier Inn, like it just gets bad.
You just go on and on and on into the
exactly.
dawn breaks.
When there's no but there tend to be no limits anyway. It's just less people to disappoint there.
Yeah. But
that's it. I feel like that chemical enhancement of the way I felt was a desire to something primal.
Yes.
Something primal when, people have sugar addictions and they can't stop binge eating. You'll have a cookie and then another one, because you have something and you get an effect, and then you have another, and then, a few years ago we went on a big do and everyone was a bit tired. We had dinner late. And so I asked if I had Red Bull. Yeah. I have a Red Bull. He brought a can of Monster, which is like 4 times the size. And I had it, and I was like, I feel fucking brilliant. I'll have another one. So I had 4 cans of Monster. No. I was so sick. I was in a mega bad state. But like the next day, that night, I could have gone all night.
Do you know what? That has never affected me in any way.
Really?
I've drunk Red Bull. I've never had a Monster because it was never a thing.
It's
basically the same as Red Bull, isn't it? And I've always, whether my expectation has been that high.
Yeah. Do you drink coffee though?
Yeah, I drink coffee. Yeah. But I don't particularly. I'm not one of these people either that I have to have a coffee in the morning. Like some people have got to have a coffee and they get a headache and I can wake up and not have a coffee.
Yeah.
But I can also equally wake up and have 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And not. It's just
same. I actually love it. I love a coffee.
Yeah.
And like just after lunch, bit tired, have a coffee. I like the act of having a coffee. But I could probably stop that because I used to think that it was the act of smoking that I enjoyed. Exactly. But it's not. It's the stimulation of the nicotine. Basically, it's the chemical.
It's the chemical, isn't it? Yeah. But it's so with the Red Bull. I don't know whether I was expecting to get this amazing rush of whatever. Yeah. And I've had them, and it's just been like, So I've never really.
Fair enough. So. And to be fair, I don't until there's a need somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Like I had a couple at the Fort William World Cup, but I haven't had one since because at that time it was just right to keep my energy levels high because you're out all day. You don't know that you turn a corner and there's an influential guy in the industry, and you got to be, And I know with ADD sometimes, and I feel bad on the people that buy into me when I'm on a high, because then. Because then the next day, or like the next time they meet me, I might be on a slump, and they're like, "Oh, Johnny's like one of those car salesmen. Like he was well into me last week."
You're like a completely different person.
Yeah. I never wanted to be that kind of person. It's not because I'm like grumpy or upset with a particular person. No, it's just like inside of me in different ways, And that summer I was talking about where I was demotivated, I was like low, very hard to stimulate. Yeah. So I could have coffees and they were doing nothing. And it was just like, I'm in the state of...
Yeah. And was that across the whole of your life, in that like family life or just work life?
I don't know. Probably more so later on. So like later years after 30 probably. Yeah. But looking back, I don't know. I probably have always found things outside that are stimulating. Yeah. So, to be fair, there was a big chunk of that where I drank every day
Yeah.
from the age of 17 to 25.
Yeah.
Oh, probably not that long. But I would go to the pub because it was social.
Yeah.
You play pool and darts.
Yeah.
But then it ended up being like 5 or 6 pints every single night.
Yeah.
And then a Friday and Saturday you'd have 10 and then go out.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you're like, shit, I'm like drinking every single day.
Yeah.
And smoking it every day.
Yeah.
And then I met a girl and we bought a house and she smoked weed. So I smoked weed every day for 2 years. It's like, this is way cheaper. And the day we broke up, I haven't smoked weed ever since. But reflecting on that was an experience. So that was something, obviously, something had to be there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at that time, weed was fun at the start and it was like giggly and shit. And then it became a habit and then it became a numbing effect.
Really?
So the numbness was to basically get by, where it was like, and it was almost like a cycle of probably our relationship or whatever else was going on. And so then when I was free of that, it was just like, I didn't say, right, I don't need it.
Yeah.
I didn't have the desire.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I decided to quit. It was that there was nothing there anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. The desire would literally
And like the alcohol, I would never drink on my own.
No.
I'd never have a drink on my own.
Yeah.
I did that, maybe a year ago or so. I think I had a bottle of wine on my own. Lou had been somewhere and the kids were somewhere. And I sat and watched a movie and I had a bottle of wine. I was like, this is really shit. But then I was like searching for Red Bulls and stuff. Man.
I'm surprised that some sort of addicts in.
Oh, mate, I am entirely an addict.
Yeah.
And I think everyone has addictions.
Yeah.
But knowing that what you can be addicted to and having stimulation elsewhere that is greater than the addiction to get you by. Because most, in my opinion and my experience, most addictions are because that's the thing that basically is the thread that keeps you where you are.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a long curve down and eventually you end up where you don't want to be because of a bad addiction.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then you can replace that and maybe it's running. Maybe it's business or learning. And maybe it's social media.
Yeah.
Maybe the addiction and the stimulation comes from different things.
It's
but
funny
if you can replace that.
I had an ex-addict on and he's going to be the next episode that I'm posting out on YouTube.
Oh, right. Cool.
And he was, well, you name it, he's took it.
Yeah.
Been in Nick 3 times, proper. He was basically tricked into taking heroin at the age of 14.
Oh, fuck.
He thought he was taking. There's a thing called hot knifing, and I'm guessing it's kind of
like the way you put a hot knife on weed, like
and a resin, and then you smoke the.
Yeah. But he did that with heroin and smoked heroin.
Yeah, and he thought it was. They told him it was. Weed, but it was heroin. So obviously, at 14 years old, boom, and he didn't get. So he was an addict for the best part from 14 till about 40s into his early 40s, and so he had no concept of normal life,
normal functioning life,
in and out of Nick, abused, you name it, a total, it's kind
painful,
of archetypal sort of junkie. And he'd say he's going to. He says it himself.
Yeah,
but he
probably didn't want that. He might have had a higher receptiveness to become an addict, but at 14 years old, if you smoke heroin, there's not a lot you can do about becoming an addict.
There isn't.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking like, addictive personality is different from something like that is an immediate, you fucked.
But, I mean, to be fair, though, because we were talking, when you just said about the addiction, I'd say his life now, he's addicted to helping other addicts. Right. So he's turned that addiction of negativity into an addiction of positivity by, he volunteers and he helps hepatitis charities and he's constantly going out and talk, and he wanted to come on the podcast because he wanted to get his story across to, like I said, if I can only help one person listening to this.
That's it. Digital visibility, message with a passion.
Passion, authentic.
Yeah.
And I mean, mate, that is going to be one.
And he's qualified. He's qualified to be able to say that,
Like you're qualified about your ADD and about
It's just sharing your experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I said earlier, you only know what you know.
Yeah.
And I'm only telling you, and this is why I'm like, I try to tread carefully in areas that I don't know.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you guess at advice,
Someone will be there. Boom.
yeah, but then you could be sending someone the wrong way.
Exactly.
You
down
know,
the wrong path.
you're like, oh, if this person comes to me for advice and I don't give them something,
Yeah.
then I'm going to look shit.
Yeah, so I'll just tell them anything.
So I'll take the risk that I'm
Yeah.
going to send them away with the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So that their pain is worse than mine. That's not cool.
and like you just said as well, your experience of ADHD and ADD and everything else is completely different from another person's listening or watching
entirely.
This, you know? So it's kind of like, all it does is that something you've said tonight might resonate, and they're like, oh, actually, I'm a bit like that.
Well,
I hope... might make them then think, I should just maybe do a bit of research.
Yeah, if nothing else, for people that might even not consider it.
Yeah.
Maybe just have a little read.
Yeah.
And look at symptoms.
Yeah.
Because it can then help you reframe yourself.
Yeah.
So that then you're at one with the way you are.
With your life, can't you?
And ultimately, you know, when you look at where you want to be in the future, you want to be all that zen, anything goes kind of guy.
Yeah.
Because nothing affects you because you're at one with yourself and what's around you.
Yeah.
And people search for that. But until you know yourself,
and
you can't get it.
You can't. You've got to know yourself.
Yeah.
Before anything. You've got to be in love with yourself. You've got to respect yourself and know yourself before anything else can happen.
And what I've experienced on my low times is when I don't feel that, I can't give it as well to the people around me.
No. Well, you can't.
And I owe it to my wife and children to be the person that I want to be.
Yeah.
Because, like, kids don't do what you tell them. They do what they see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, if they can see me mostly being good, sometimes breaking rules, but in a decent way, like a testing and you know, you're building that. Oh well, there's maybe not the limits that I expect, but these things are important that I have to conform to. Like conform is like I'm like against it, but like I don't know, like you see why the punks and the rebels and stuff had that, like because they wanted to break away from what was expected from them.
I think that's what I was good about the generation I come from, is because we kind of grew up with that going on around us.
Yeah.
So there was basically obviously no social media. There was 2 or 3 television channels,
magazines,
and it was kind of like, and you learn from
your peer group.
From what someone had, from proper experience, you know, and it was proper someone telling you, not someone trying to tell you so much so they could get a load of likes on they were telling you because it had happened, because they'd been there. And it was that kind of, that punk sort of
breaking the mold.
You know,
I'm almost jealous of that. I'd definitely be a punk.
But it was a great time to live because there was so much new. I was probably the last generation to create a lot of new stuff. Yeah. You know, we still had that rebelliousness that still was rebellious. You know, it was.
It's like nowadays, like, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I look at, you know, like movies and like Fight Club and like these characters where I'm like my favorite movie of all time is Point Break. Yeah. Patrick Swayze in that. And like, I was like, I can totally identify with this guy. Yeah. You know, and like, and he's tipped the limit. Yeah. Which I have high potential to do. But I admired him even more. Dying on a wave, and you're like, fucking yes. But now, like, because of that, and like, I felt like I was quite like those people. Yes. I don't know how many other people felt like that. Yeah. But it definitely influenced me to push harder in non-conformity. Yeah. Whereas nowadays I feel like it's not rebellion if everyone's doing it. Yeah. Which is like a different era altogether. Which is how cool when you don't have to fight against expectations and conformity when more things go. Yeah. And you can actually just be how I feel now, but as a teenager,
Yeah.
where everything's accepted,
Yeah.
and everyone's accepted for being different,
Yeah.
the nuances, the skills and weaknesses.
Yeah.
If everyone's happy with that, God, I feel like, if they could feel like me now, back then, what a beautiful place for people to be in.
Wouldn't it?
And I just really hope that that's the way it's going. And
in some aspects it does seem like that, and then in other aspects it seems like we've gone back 50 years.
Yeah,
it's just insane that some things are happening in the world. You think, what? This was like when I was a kid. These things were happening, and they seem to be happening even worse now than they did then. And you think people
want to be
over.
part of something that's of purpose, whether good or bad,
don't they? And it's just like, I don't know, but
future conversations.
It is.
We should smoke weed for the first time in a decade, 2 decades.
I smoked, my only experience of smoking, it was when I was about, this was about 83, I think, so I was about 14 or 15, and we got some resin, and we were having a smoke, and it's again, I think with me, right, the fact that I've never touched drugs particularly, that was the first and last time I ever smoked it, because I think my expectation of it was too high. I was expecting to go astral planing and tripping.
Right,
just off the one smoke of weed.
Let's call some LSD or something. That'd be mint.
I maybe should have done that instead.
This is the new era of Tatty Tim. Oh, mate, I can't wait.
Join us next week as we go tripping around the universe on mushrooms and LSD.
Brilliant.
But yeah, I think that's the only thing I've never. Because I don't know whether my imagination and my kind of inner voice has been that highly tuned anyway, that I've never really needed those external stimulants to get me to these places. And when I've tried them, it's been like, oh, that was shit. It's like, I can get far better like that just using my own imagination anyway.
Yeah, which is great. And I feel the same. And I've always had a brilliant imagination and very creative, and I've not used it as a tool to enhance necessarily.
No,
just being that other thing that needs to be filled. Do you know what I mean? And in the past it's been filled by those things that now I'm at one with everything. And the doctor fills me with class A's, then technically it's fine.
You're getting it for £9 a prescription.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, happy day.
I only take half of them and sell the rest for 50.
The businessman in you.
There you go, AdderallPenrith.com.
Or come and see me at the store. No, we're not. I'm only kidding.
It's a good job I never... actually, I'll probably never be allowed to work for the police again.
Anyway. Oh, mate. You know what? Tonight has been a cracking show.
I've enjoyed it. Nice chatting to you.
It's been great.
It's been better than those 1-minute snippets grabbing
at the store.
Grabbing a bacon, beans and cheese.
That's your go-to.
Actually, no, they're really shit. Don't ever get bacon, beans and cheese. It sells out by like 12 o'clock every day.
even when you ask me to save them, I still don't bother.
Cheers. Oh, thank you very much.
Cheers, man. So much. So I think that'll do for this week's episode. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. You know I don't bother asking for likes and subscriptions.
Like, subscribe.
Johnny
Tim has a passion. Fucking show it. He's just too modest. He needs a bit more of a salesman approach to
I do,
reaching more people.
But you know, if you're going to like and you're going to subscribe, you're going to do it anyway, aren't you? You're not an idiot. So if you feel your thumb or finger going over to that button,
get the fucking
do it.
Wonder where you're going, that
finger. So cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for next week's episode.
Peace.
Thank you. See ya.